tomorrow, so we'll get a little Sliwa action tomorrow, which means one more day of Ask Big CY coming up in about
5
45
for 5.
minutes. Yeah, you got a bunch of them.
Do I need a reel for any other shows? Nope. Just play all the Ask CYs and let me know. That's all you need.
There you go. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good, man. I did not. Okay, full disclosure, I did not make it to SoFi for a lot of different reasons. It was a long week. I did go to the Fernando Valenzuela game, so there was that. But on Saturday,
you went to Fernando on Friday.
Friday,
Okay.
I went Friday. So did you
execute your plan? Were you out by the 4th?
I was gone by the 4th.
Okay.
Yes, and so on Saturday, I found myself thinking, I don't feel good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of sick. And I was like, ultimately, this is still just a week 1 preseason game. And my thoughts, you specifically entered my mind when you were like, nobody's going to be there. And I was like.
Did you happen to turn it on at some point and watch it?
I did not turn it on at some point.
There was no way. Remember I said over under 30? Under.
I did not turn it on because when I was home, I was like, all right, let me rest and just chill out. And I turned on my cable, which was streaming. In my bedroom, I have the app. In my living room, I have the cable. Game wasn't on either channel because of some streaming screw up. So I was like, you know what? The Lord does not want me to watch crappy preseason football this weekend. So I just turned it off entirely and double barreled the Angels and the Halos.
You missed
the Dodgers.
A little bit of some stuff. It was, look, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
It's preseason football, week 1 preseason football.
Yeah.
But the Rams did play some of their guys. We got to see a little Stetson Bennett along the way. But I get it. This is why, you told me about it. I'm like, it was on for me.
It wasn't on for me.
We're just using old school, which is funny that DirecTV is old school here
these days.
In the studio when we were in the conference room, me, Em, and Kirk, and then Beto and I did the post game show with little Rams action this weekend.
Well, let me ask you that though quickly. I mean, are you ready for some football?
Yeah.
Like how much did you get back into the vibe and back into the swing of what you do?
Once camp starts, I'm in.
Okay.
Once camp starts, and I do the Locked on Rams podcast every day too, so I'm always kind of in that world.
Sure.
But once there's actual guys running around with helmets on, then it becomes much more real. And once you saw them in SoFi. Got a week of practice with the Raiders coming up. You got a Raider game coming up on Saturday, and then that last game against the Broncos. Nobody plays in that one, so we're close.
Do you like those split squad, two squad split practices where they
the joint workouts?
Joint workouts is what I'm looking for.
I do, because you actually get ones going against ones, which you do not get in the. Aaron Donald will participate in those.
Oh, really?
Against the number ones of both Denver and the Las Vegas Raiders, so you get real work in those.
Am I off base into thinking that those feel like powder kegs constantly ready to explode even more so than training camps already are?
Do you not remember what happened last year?
I remember a couple things that have happened in these over the course of the years.
No,
I do remember that, but what I'm saying is that's why I'm surprised they're returning to this. That's why I brought it up. You know what I'm saying?
I think the moral of the story is leave Aaron Donald alone.
Okay.
But also, typically for training camp, they kind of like fire. They like people get angry. They like people get roughed up because it's kind of like it adds fuel to the fire of training camp. It's something that happens at every team and every year, and it just kind of elevates training camp.
I gotta say, I'm pretty shocked that they've returned to this after last season. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean?
Happens
But
every year.
It does.
Your
helmet swinging in that regard does not necessarily.
That was extreme.
That was excessive.
Extreme.
Yeah.
It was excessive. But you need your ones to get real work.
Yeah.
And going up against your own guys day after day after day becomes repetitive, and you need to get a different look. And you get a different look in these things. So there's that. Emily, I know you had 14 concerts this weekend.
I went to 2 concerts. I went and saw Noah Kahan at the Greek Theater on Friday night, and then I saw Maggie Rogers at the Hollywood Bowl yesterday. So it was really fun.
Bit of a come down after your Taylor Swift concert the week before.
She has set the bar incredibly high. So Noah Kahan did 2 hours and some change or whatever in his performance, and I was like, okay, so that's it. That's it. You're not going to do every single
only 2
thing?
hours on stage.
That's a long time in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Noah has I think 3 albums out, and obviously Taylor has 10. So it's a little different, but they're both very different vibes, very interesting. I love the Hollywood Bowl a lot, but I think the energy is always a little weird and a little interesting because there's people in the front that are sitting down and the little club spots, and then there's everyone else in the back that's kind of standing up and giving energy and stuff. So sometimes the performer doesn't always get it, but I like the Greek Theater because it's kind of small, it's more intimate. It's still kind of the same thing of being in nature and out there and stuff in the amphitheater style.
JV Hollywood
yes,
Bowl.
exactly.
Right.
So Hollywood Bowl I think is great for the fill, for more calm concerts, but I don't know if I loved seeing Maggie Rogers there.
Apparently, she didn't love being there from some of the things that
She
you told
made
me earlier.
comments
Little
the entirety of the show. She was being like, "Come on, guys, give like a modicum of energy," and she was like essentially coaching up the crowd. And I was like, "People paid money to see you to be here. Do not tell us how to act. We can act." As long as we're not being like rude to you, we're not heckling you, we're not throwing things on the stage, that's one thing. But we can kind of act how we want to act in response to that.
That's also a great way to get people to start heckling you and throwing things on the stage, you know?
But look, you know, and I'm not that I've ever performed at a place like the Hollywood Bowl, but your performance is better when you're getting something coming back the other way. Now, I guess you could make the argument that that's incumbent on you to bring the energy to begin with so people get involved. But if you're out there selling and working and you're getting crickets coming back, that's not a great feeling.
It was definitely a weird vibe. It was both sides of like, I think it was an older crowd. I think it was a crowd that didn't necessarily know her music because it was not sold out. So I think the tickets were pretty cheap. So a lot of people were like, oh, let's go to a Hollywood Bowl. Let's just see who this person is. As opposed to like big Maggie Rogers stands, which when I saw her at the Shrine, it was sold out. It was people who wanted to see her, and she still did the same thing though. She was still saying, yeah, come on, bring up the energy, guys. And so I think it's a thing with her and not necessarily a thing with
the
bad
problem.
Attitude.
Yeah,
that's a you problem. That's just a bad attitude situation.
But I do have a funny story. So we got there really early because we got there actually like when doors opened because we wanted to eat a picnic, like enjoy the company.
What was in the basket?
We got these sandwiches from this place called Giada.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Giada.
Yeah, it's like a Italian place.
As in Giada De Laurentiis?
I don't know, but it's Gigi.
Because you have my full attention if we're talking about Giada De Laurentiis.
Who is that?
She is a Food Network host,
personality,
celebrity
who is
chef,
very popular. If you get my opinion.
No, I don't think it's from this person. It's from these guys that like used to live in New Jersey, ran a deli in New Jersey.
I'm less interested about that.
He's totally derailed ever since you mentioned Giada. Okay, look up Giada and you might understand why. Yeah. But hold on, I am interested. How did the picnic execute versus what you had planned?
It was great. No, the picnic was awesome. Like, we had the sandwiches that were great. We had wine. We shared this table with an older couple, and we shared some of our wine and some of our food with them. It was very sweet.
I like that. See, that's something that you don't get at a Taylor Swift show because people are too busy standing in line for $80 merch. Yeah. Right. But that, to me, that's something I need to be doing more of in my life. Picnicking with music playing elsewhere where I'm not that concerned about either the music or the picnic. It's just something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not overly concerned with either one.
In the park, like in your local neighborhood, even if it's like just a cover band or a local band or whatever, can be a lot of fun.
Very clutch.
Hollywood Bowl is great for that too, depending on who you're going to go see. Like, as long as the artist isn't mad at you for not giving the energy.
Criticizing your act as an audience member along the way.
Exactly.
That's pretty aggressive. What about you, Jorge? How was your weekend?
Oh, man, weekend was a little south because I went to the LAFC game and they lost or eliminated from the Leagues Cup 3-2 to Monterrey. But, a good note on that, we ran into Cristo Fernandez, who plays Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso.
Did you talk to him?
Oh, yeah. We talked to him after the game. He was 8 seats away from us, and then there was a couple fights that broke out on both ends of we're in the middle of the thing, so a couple fights broke out. My parents were like, we're not leaving until those things clear out.
Yeah.
I had my daughter with me. And then meanwhile, that's happening. Everybody's trying to get pictures with this guy, talking to this guy, and as soon as he's walking towards us, they stop right behind us, and we're just having a good chat. And then after that, we're like, hey, man, we got to do a selfie. He's like, absolutely. And it was cool. It was a cool game, good vibes, but man, the heartbreaking loss at the end.
Hold on. So where was this game? Rose Bowl?
Rose Bowl.
So just a couple random fights? I mean, like, we're fighting at League Cups games now? Like, like respectfully, like, this is a relatively new tournament. That, like, what happened, if I may?
Can I take a guess without having...
Go ahead.
Alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but I'm saying, like...
That's exactly what it was.
That's kind of a bad look.
Yeah, the whole thing, I mean, you got to remember, it's a Mexican team against a USA team. So it's that whole rivalry is there.
Yeah, that element.
Yeah, so then, fights breaking out. One of the guys got tossed over the rail.
Opa.
Oh, yeah. So it was that intense, and it was a fun game. It was a really fun game. LAFC was leading 2-0, and then they tied it up in the second half, and then last minute, 88th minute, 3-2 goal. My dad... this is funny. Everybody's dressed in black and gold around us. My dad's wearing a great gray suit, sweats and sweatshirt, whatever. As soon as Monterrey scores, he's the only one that stands up in the stand and says, yes, goal. I'm like, what are you doing?
Sit down, Dad.
Yeah,
he's the one starting the fights.
I'm like, what are you doing? doing? And he's just like, hey, I'm rooting for Monterrey. I was like, oh, Dad, I'm not bringing you ever again.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's one of those things. You got to know the etiquette, right? You got to understand your surroundings. You got to understand who hooked you up and all these things. Like,
I've been in a decent amount of fights that involved weird situations that were probably more dangerous than they needed to be. Never got to chuck a guy over a railing, though. Like, that's big, like, 80s,
How
90s.
high? Like, what was the drop from the railing down to the ground?
Well, we're on the bottom bowl.
So that's, I mean, that's
6 feet?
Probably.
Maybe closer to 8, I thought. Yeah, but like it's lower than a basketball rim, but it's enough to mess you up. But like big 80s action energy where like you're running and some guy comes out, you chuck him over the side and keep it moving.
Like
a
Seagal movie.
Right? Exactly. Yes,
like
that's exactly.
You go down and you flip him up.
Yeah,
and
you keep going.
But you got to have like a quip as he's going over the rail. You know, like we're gonna upgrade your seats or something like that as you flip him over the rail. You got to say something snarky.
I mean, we wish well on everybody involved in that fight, but the idea of people going over railings is just wow. That's aggressive.
The idea of fighting at a stadium, just come on, why?
This is why I don't go to NFL games. This is why NFL games do not appeal to me in a Gen Pop context.
Hold on a second. I'm not saying that there aren't fights at NFL games, but I've been to plenty of Dodger games and seen fights.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Plenty of Angel games and seen fights.
I repeat, this is where the Gen Pop element becomes the thing. But the percentage of fights that happen at football games within the regular population is higher, I think, than it does at baseball games. I really do. In the crowd?
I don't know about that.
In the crowd is the key element I'm referring to.
There are fights at most events, sadly, because alcohol.
Right.
And passion plus alcohol equals fights a lot of times, but I don't know.
I feel like most of the things I hear about in Dodger Stadium are in the parking lot.
Which I've seen plenty. Less now than there used to be.
Yeah.
Where you don't see it typically is basketball games.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't happen nearly
Not
as
in
much
the
in
NBA.
basketball games.
No.
You know what I'm surprised though? In and out of the Rose Bowl like that.
Really?
Quick. Yes.
Lucky you.
Speaking of in and out, there may have been an incident that took place with me late Saturday night after I left you, Emily, when on my way home. It may have gone down, and it may have been a decision that affected my Sunday. That's coming up next. It's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN. Are you dealing with a dead battery? If you are, head to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. They offer free battery services like free battery testing and free battery charging. Their free battery testing can help you know if you need a new battery or not, and if you're in need of a fresh charge. And if you do happen to need a replacement battery, they can help you with that as well. They're the only place you can find proven tough, Duralast batteries. So the next time you're having battery trouble, head to AutoZone, your battery solution and America's #1 battery destination. So Al and I are teaming up for your chance to win an entire office full of lunch from Waba Grill. So you're going to want to be listening all day during the 12 o'clock lunch hour for your cue to call to pick up food for the entire office, courtesy of Waba Grill.
We got some ribeye, we got some chicken, we got some shrimp.
I'm making it sound like I cooked them myself. Look at these boom boom tacos.
You can visit wabagrill.com. You can order online. Just go on in, get yourself some of these tacos. Visit your local Waba Grill location. Of course, walk right in. Of course, you can order online for delivery or pickup. Waba Grill, right? Eat smart, be healthy. Boom boom, kaboom. Your house twice in one day. I don't.
Great
know.
question.
Travis and Sliwa
On 710 ESPN.
So, on Saturday, Emily and I did Rams pregame show, halftime show, postgame show during the Rams and Chargers first preseason game of the year. And Emily, what time we get out of here on Saturday? About 10:15 or so? 10:30?
10:45.
Was it that late?
Yeah, it was that late.
Wow.
So
okay.
so 10:45, and it got off to a weird start because Emily had to ride the elevator with me, which she hates to do.
Oh, we've been over this.
So she went to, show ends, she's out of here, and Beto and I are packing our stuff up, and by the time I get down there, Emily's still waiting for the second elevator to go from the lobby
too long.
down to the parking garage.
You reached the interior wall.
And I tried to lighten it up a little bit, right? Because this is what I do. And I said to her, Emily, I know you're going to hate this, but we're going to ride the elevator together. And all I got was, I know.
Yes.
And so we
Okay, hold on. Because I'm
not participating in the bit. I know from Chris that you egg on the bit.
No. This is not a bit, but this is like a real concern because this went from thing I can understand happening in a 1 to 2 off scenario, which is I don't want to ride the elevator with you today, or really any day, but like it's not that big a deal. But this now feels like a definitive boundary that was not necessarily the case before. It was just a matter of convenience.
So and that elevator ride, I've timed it, by the way.
What I'm saying is, am I to understand that I should also be heeding the never ride in an elevator with
so.
Emily?
Maybe it's a Travis
directive.
thing.
It just so happens we will ride the elevator, but I prefer not to talk.
Last week I wrote it down with her. Now why?
Now you feel uncomfortable. You feel like you violated
broke the wall.
Yeah.
You did it.
Why, Emily? I don't understand why.
The excruciating 8 seconds that it takes to go down from the lobby down to the parking garage.
You, of course, violated.
We get through. So
did you talk during the?
I probably said something. I don't even remember what I said, but
yes, there was minimal
He's like,
chat.
yeah, you said way too much. Right.
I mean, how much can you say in 8 seconds? Not much, right? There's not a lot of time to start asking about, like, so tell me about your high school experience.
Right.
It was just like, hey, I'll see you on Monday, something like that.
Okay.
Doors open, and I don't know if I have, like, Carl Lewis speed from the door to her car. Like, she's gone. She's just gone, and there's literally like a dust cloud coming up.
What do you want from me?
No. Like, Emily, I'm trying to defend you because I'm trying to understand, like, now that this is an actual thing and not just like a something that kind of annoys you thing. Like, I prefer to know that because I will not press the button and complete the bit. I will wait, knowing full well that it makes you uncomfortable.
It's fine. People can ride the elevator with me. I just would rather, at any situation, to not. I'm not going to be like, going into
clearly.
the situation.
I'm glad I know that now. I respect that. I totally. This is, again, we've had this discussion ad nauseum in terms of like bathroom chat, elevator chat. Where else chat? You know what I'm saying?
There are different lines for different people.
There are different lines for different people.
There is one line with her. The elevator.
I'm glad I know
happening.
that now. That's better to know.
So
okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
we finish up. I had gotten something to eat on the way up from. I live down in Orange County, so on my way up, I grabbed something at around
Popeyes.
We'll get to that. That's part of the story. We'll get to that in a second.
All right.
So I get something, Las Golondrinas, which is a Mexican place by my house that I really like. So I'm like, what? I get something. It's about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So I drive up here, had this pretty good sized burrito from that place. So I'm nice full. Don't eat anything up here. I had to think of some Fritos and whatever. So I haven't eaten anything. Driving home, I get home.
That's a long stretch for you, Sons Meals. I mean, you were here for a while.
It is.
Yeah.
I exit the freeway at my house at about midnight. Okay? Exit the freeway, and I don't know if you were here the day. They just opened a Popeyes in my neighborhood.
Definitely.
So I'm like, you know what?
I was here when you broke that news.
This is a good opportunity for me to hit that Popeyes. Okay. So I make a left to go to the new Popeyes.
It was open at midnight?
It was not.
Okay.
And so that was the thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Do you know what is right next to the Popeyes? In-N-Out.
Okay. Old Faithful.
So I go to In-N-Out, and, it's 12:10 at this point, and it's In-N-Out on a Saturday night after midnight. There's a wait.
Popping, yeah.
There's a wait, right? So there's, I don't know, 10, 12 cars or so. It's going to take a few minutes. It's In-N-Out. You got to wait because it's good. Everything else. I'm sitting there. I'm getting hungrier. I get up to the person with the little pad, the iPad where they put the order in, and I ordered my standard thing. I said, I want a double, animal style with chopped chilies, fries, and a pink lemonade. And it was a woman. She says, okay, can I get you anything else? And at that moment, you have that internal dialogue with yourself that takes about a half a second, but feels like you're having a whole conversation in your head. Mm-hmm. I did the whole, you should get another cheeseburger. Don't get another cheeseburger. No, you really should get another cheeseburger. Don't get another cheese. The whole thing, I said, yeah, I'll take another cheeseburger.
The psychology of that marketing is so easy.
So I get double chopped chilies, animal style, and a cheeseburger, and a fries, from In-N-Out to my front door. maybe it's a 6-minute drive.
Okay.
It's not super far. The cheeseburger and fries are gone before I even come through the door.
Yikes.
It's gone. I come through the door.
That's an unhealthy inhalation rate.
I sit down at the table. Now it's 12:30. I sit down at my kitchen table and just absolutely clobber a double-double at 12:30. So I've had a cheeseburger, a fries, and a double-double at 12:30 at night. I'm still wide awake from working.
So
right? You can't
right.
go to sleep. I stayed up till about 2:30 in the morning, woke up the next morning with a literal cheeseburger hangover.
Oh. That's disgusting. See,
it wasn't. I earned it.
What I would be doing if I was your son or your wife at that point, and I saw this happening, I would be walking over to what is basically the lineup board and erasing your name from the lineup card the next day. Travel not be available for the next game upcoming based on the actions we've seen tonight.
Cheeseburger intervention?
Yeah, exactly.
It was aggressive. Had I just got the double-double and fries, it would have been fine.
Sure.
It would have been totally that extra cheeseburger put over the top.
Speaking of which,
what's the hangover cure for hamburger hangover?
We're all friends here. We're all friends here. You know what? Do you know what I did when I woke up the next morning? This is embarrassing to say.
Did you eat another cheeseburger?
You went on a run.
Yeah, right.
I went to a little local place in my neighborhood called Ted's and got a breakfast burrito the size of a shoebox.
Of course you did. Yeah. Of course you did. Speaking of which.
So my diet in a 24-hour window consisted of a carne asada burrito, a breakfast burrito with bacon.
Some Fritos here.
Some Fritos here, and 2 cheeseburgers from a double-double and a cheeseburger from In-N-Out.
This is a consumption rate that I cannot
It was
stand with.
an appalling performance on my behalf.
Do you see this here?
I see
this. This is the toy that I got.
Oh, is that your happy meal?
I ordered Mickey D's.
It kind of looks like Elastigirl from
It's Mrs. Marvel. Is who it is.
You have the button in the back that moves her little arm?
Yeah, there it is. Oh, look at that.
She punches.
Punch you. Get out of here, buddy. I don't need your burritos.
I got that last week.
Oh, cool. All right. So, yeah. So, anyway, this is I was speaking of ridiculous rampages with fast food. This is why I thought of it, and I put it in my bag this morning. So, there's Miss Marvel.
So, that's how
you made it through.
That's how
Did
Saturday
you
ended.
Eat anything else on Sunday, or is that
I made a very responsible, healthy dinner last night. I had some salmon and some grilled vegetables.
I was going to guess. it's going to be fish related.
Yeah.
Salmon, grilled vegetables, and quinoa. I dialed it way back.
I had some good tacos. So I went to see Beto this weekend because he had like a family cookout for his son who's going off to play ball in college. Pretty good tacos there. I ate about.
He told me he was upgrading the guy to an extra hour when we were talking on Saturday.
Okay, so the guys were really good, and I might have eaten. You'd have been proud of me, Travis. I might have eaten 5 tacos like over the course of the day, which was a lot.
Nice.
Pretty good.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's
how long did it take
solid
you?
show.
And rice and
18
beans.
months?
No. It was over the course of multiple hours, but I ate 5. You know what I'm saying? And probably had a couple rice and beans. Definitely drank a whole mini bottle of tequila. You know what I mean? So that fueled part of it, but
it's a good day.
Yeah, it was a very good day on that front.
That is a fantastic day. All right, so the Dodgers, they've won 8 in a row, season high 8 in a row winning streak. They've won
high operative word.
12 of their last 13. They're hot.
Yeah,
they're as hot as anybody in Major League Baseball. They've basically put away the NL West. It's virtually over at this point. 8.5 game lead. And by the way, the Dodgers schedule is very favorable looking forward. They get Milwaukee and Cleveland, Miami. They've got some teams.
Milwaukee's coming here next.
Yeah, they're in a pretty good spot.
Milwaukee's not a bad team. They're leading the Central.
They're not a bad team, but it's not like they're going to go through the Braves and the Rangers and the Astros and the Orioles over the next couple of weeks. They do have the Braves coming up at the end of the month.
Right.
Is it them getting it figured out? Is it them getting to the point where all the pieces are clicking? Or is it them playing the A's, the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, some of the teams that are having pretty lousy seasons? Because I think both things can be true at the same time.
I think as part of it,
like.
I do think that they've also learned about themselves that, and this is something that I was hoping for maybe 6 weeks ago. They know that this is what it's going to take. There are no delusions of grandeur that suddenly they're going to get a quality start from a guy out of nowhere, or suddenly some guy's going to pitch a gem and go a complete game or whatever. Like, they know if we don't score, we do not win. And that, to me, even if it is sort of a faulty premise on which to believe that you can win a championship, if you're doing it every night and you believe it and it continues to work, well, then why the heck not? I think that's as much where they are as anything.
They have real problems, but their problems aren't necessarily any more problematic than anyone else's.
Correct.
And you sent me an interesting text last night, which I'm still kind of turning over in my head. Go ahead and kind of frame it.
Here's the thing, is that we talk all the time about the Dodgers being championship or bust, that being the standard, but at the same time keeping our expectations tempered on this season based on what injuries are and so forth. And at this stage of the season, there's pretty much one team that is head and shoulders above every other team, that being the Atlanta Braves. There was a time when people considered that to be the Rays because of that hot start that they had. They've obviously been overtaken even in their own division. The Atlanta Braves are the best team in Major League Baseball. I think top to bottom, nobody's really going to dispute that. However, if you're thinking about what the Dodgers' chances are to win the World Series and you take the Braves out of it, would you pick the field or the Dodgers? And I don't know that I have an answer to this question, but I was trying to think of ways to sort of reframe where our expectations are going to be. And that's why I posed you that question, because I do think it's an interesting one. Because if their problems are so big that you would readily take the field, that's one thing. But if you wouldn't, well, then maybe you have to readjust the other side of the opinions on what the expectations are, too, because it's not like the Braves are necessarily just going to walk through somebody.
No.
You know what I mean?
And nobody walks through anybody in the playoffs.
Right,
It's pretty
and that's
rare.
where this becomes an interesting discussion. Like, just put the Braves, as Sliwa would say, let's put that to the side for a second. You know what I mean? And see, if you had to take the Dodgers against the field, Braves notwithstanding, would you do it?
I think I'm taking the field.
Okay.
And here's why. Because the problem, their biggest problem is the problem that becomes most difficult to overcome in a series, and that is bullpen.
Yeah.
Their biggest – I know that we talk about you got to have that horse, you got to have that ace, you got to have clutch. All of these things true, but what you need are those random 6th, 7th inning guys to get you to your Evan Phillips, to get you to that guy, to your Clase at the back end. One of those guys that is going to be deeply, deeply important to you. Now, maybe it's Tony Gonsolin. Maybe it's Lance Lynn. You shorten down your rotation and some of your starters go there. But the Dodgers, right now, they're pitching great. The bullpen's been really good. Joe Kelly's hurt. Almani had that.
Joe Kelly's hurt for the third time this season. I don't love that.
He gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And he's a good pitcher, and I like Joe Kelly, but it's hard really to say, okay, we're going to have Joe Kelly every single night moving forward. If this were hey, you know what? They never figured out their shortstop problem. If this is a past the 6th spot in the order, it's a black hole. They're not getting any hits. I'd say, you know what? Okay, but when you're talking about lack of bullpen depth and lack of really reliable bullpen arms, that is a problem that always rears itself in the postseason. Doesn't mean they can't win. It means if I can have the other 15 teams in the field, I'm going to take them.
Okay. When this is the other thing, I try to be as positive as possible with Dodgers fans, because I tend to look somewhat more negatively than a lot of other people do. But when I thought about it that way, I thought, you know what, that team might have a shot. We could talk about more of that later.
All right, it is time for 710 to get some fall interns. Are you a current college student or have one living in your house? They can apply for a paid internship, and you can earn college credit this fall at 710 ESPN. Here's what you do. You go to goodkarmabrands.com/careers. Let me give it to you again, goodkarmabrands.com/careers. If you are a college student looking for an internship or you know someone who is, go ahead and check that out. It's a great place to hang out.
And who knows what it'll turn into. We have some of our interns that are now working for us.
Absolutely.
More
Absolutely. We have a good group. We have a good group of interns. We've done a very
previous crew was better. No, I'm joking. Just sit there right there.
All right. Dave Roberts said something that made me go, really? It's coming up next. It's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN. Do for service? If it is, before you hit the road for your summer vacation, head into your neighborhood Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Because for over 30 years, Valvoline has provided quick and convenient automotive maintenance services for busy people just like you and me. No dragging the kids into that dirty waiting room. You're not in, you're not out, you're not looking at that weird coffee pot and everything else that's going on in there. At Valvoline, you stay in your car, nice and relaxed, nice and safe, while the expert technicians make sure that your ride is in peak performance. Oil changes, tire rotations, transmission care, and more. Just pull up, drive in, and drive out in about 15 minutes. There are over 80 locations ready to help you get your ride ready for the road in no time. So visit SoCalOilChange.com for locations and game-winning coupons off of your next Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Do you want to win a chance to play golf with John Ireland and Corporate Greg? Terranea Resort and ESPN LA are giving away a round of golf at the links at Terranea and lunch with Ireland and Greg. All you have to do is post a video of your golf swing on Instagram or Twitter and tag at ESPN Los Angeles. Mason and Ireland will review the best swings, and you could be playing golf with Ireland and Corporate Greg at the links at Terranea. I feel like I should be eligible for that.
I was going to say, I know
again.
Ireland plays a lot. I know Mason tries hard. I know Greg is pretty good. But are these guys really swing analysts, or like how are we doing this?
I think it's more aesthetics. Just
Okay.
as not
right.
you know
Max
what, you're
Homeland
coming a
on
little inside the ball right
yeah.
here. I don't
Yeah,
think that they're
I was
going to
like-
break it down like Butch Harmon.
I was
don't
like,
think it's
who
that
is doing
situation.
the analysis here? But
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. So that pretty nice place, by the way.
What
Terranea.
is it? Where is that?
Palos Verdes.
Okay, all right.
Pretty.
That's
pretty good spot.
Pretty
I
Tony.
saw on like TikTok, one of these like influencers on TikTok had her wedding there. Her name's Emily Marico. Oh my gosh, it looked
Really?
gorgeous.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
like, if that's where you're gonna go play golf, like I would even put my swing out there. I don't play golf.
That's one of the, that's
Just
one of
to
the
see
parts
it, yeah.
of Southern California that's like even people who live here and have spent a lot of time here don't get old because it's not super easy to get to.
Sure.
It's kind of out on the point right there.
Right.
But man, oh man, once you're
Okay.
there, it is fantastic along the way. I'm not quite ready to talk about my public address activities on Friday evening. I'm still kind of trying to
Licking wounds?
process and work my way through it.
Okay.
You know,
Hey, it's
like
preseason for everybody.
I'll say.
I love
can't
that
wait.
phrase. By the way,
I will say so. It was not great.
Not
And
great.
We'll swing around to it.
Okay, let me know. I don't want
sometimes,
to. I don't want to preempt too much.
It'll help to walk my way through it. But,
Yeah, I got you.
But we'll see.
Morsels, as Sedano says.
Two In-N-Out burgers at 12:30 is
Yeah,
one too many.
that'll alter the course of your weekend, to say the very least.
I had the same wrap 4 times last week.
What?
That's where I was too. So I had it on Saturday too at the Rams game. So it's from California Chicken Cafe, and I don't know what this like wrap has done to my mind, but it's all I think about. This wrap is so good. It is so crunchy. It's I can't
Like,
stop talking
what
about
is
it.
it?
It had something that I have not seen before. The croutons in the wrap.
Oh yeah, that's next level.
So it's
that's
this
an
like
expert
ranch
maneuver.
wrap, and I added the croutons. It was not in the original
okay.
order, so I
Okay.
added the croutons, and it has
Game changer.
carrots,
Yeah.
sprouts, this like juicy, great grilled chicken. It has like cheese, tomato, lettuce, and it's just in like a pita bread instead of tortilla. And I don't know what it is. Again, this wrap just lives rent free in my head, and I might get
Aaron
it right
Rodgers
now.
in the chicken wrap.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And one is better for my health than the other.
Are you on course for them to name it after you if you continue to order that
I
much?
haven't been there enough
Okay.
at this point
All
in
right.
time, but I will go maybe today.
Okay, good to know.
Why not? Hey, look, if that would make 5 times in a little more than a week, they might call it the Emily or the Hebel or something like that.
I should petition.
You should.
I
Treat
want
yourself. Exactly.
I love that phrase.
Oh, it's the best.
It's so great.
It's exactly the best.
Ask Big CY coming up in about 9 minutes from right now, so go ahead and send those in. Of course, you can call 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. Dave Roberts said something about this team, and obviously the team's playing well. They're good. They've got the 3rd best record in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
That the Dodgers are good again, that they're competing for a division title, that they're competing for a pennant, that they're competing for a World Series title. It's kind of been what they've done over the better part of a decade. But Dave Roberts said something that surprised me. This is my favorite team I've ever had. I love this club. I mean, I really love it. It's as tight-knit a group as I've seen. It's a very unselfish group. When I'm asking pitcher to pitch in various roles and for hitters to play in different roles and for guys to do whatever it takes to win a ball game, that is being a good teammate. I've got 26 of those guys. That has been our secret sauce throughout the injuries, the inconsistencies. Dave Roberts is nothing if not very, very good at communicating and very, very aware of what he says in the media is going to send a larger message.
One of the best in the league at that.
He's terrific at it. I think it's his best skill, quite frankly. He's really, and I don't mean that as
No.
shot.
I totally
mean that
understand.
as a compliment.
Yeah.
This is my favorite team I've ever had. That caught me by surprise because this is certainly not the best team he's ever had. This team has more holes than a lot of the other teams that they've had. But that it's his favorite team, I thought is very telling because that was not a phrase he used just in the heat of the moment. He thought about what he was saying.
So there's a couple things with that, which is that, number one, you mentioned how good he is at communicating. which means that not only do I take him at his word, I also believe that what he's saying is coming from an educated point of view, as in educated within the circumstances, not within school or whatever. Meaning, I can still goes in into that maybe get and it's different for interim political position at all times once it comes to the postseason that I imagine is very frustrating, because no matter what the reality is, you're answering to both sides of the table. And so for this group to come together, they're doing their Freddie dances. Again, expectations are low, but they're still winning ball games and they're hitting the snot out of the ball. I can see very quickly what that means to him in terms of the fact that the other people are not making the noise that they once made.
I think part of it is they're almost attempting to do the opposite of what they did a year ago. I want to go back, and it was maybe not quite what's today. Today's August 14th. It wasn't this early, but you could see it from here. It was right around the beginning of September where the Dodgers locked up the division again.
Yep. And they were on their way to winning well north of 100 games again. And I remember Andrew Friedman going on television, it was either that night or the night after they'd clinched the division, right around there, and basically taking a moment to say, hey, everybody, I know that we want to win the World Series, and that's our goal every single year, but can we just appreciate what it is that we just did? We're back in the postseason for whatever it was, 10th year in a row, won the division 9 out of the last 10 years. This doesn't happen. This is, I believe he used the phrase, the golden age of Dodger baseball. And everybody's looking around like, no, bro. This is a team that needs to go win the World Series. This is a team that is loaded, and you could feel that pressure just stacking up on those guys. A line like this is my favorite team. The expectations that you're talking about, I think, is an attempt, and a pretty good one, by the way, to just say, hey, listen, we do have inconsistencies. We do have holes in our lineup. We do have a ton of injuries. We do not have, 1 through 9 an all-star at every position the way we have in some other seasons.
The Braves do, basically.
The way the Braves do. That we are in it, that let's just lighten up and see what happens here. We got a good group. We got a gritty group. We got a resilient group. Let's just kind of let it hang and see what happens. I think they're trying to put their players in that mindset and put the fans in a similar mindset to everybody. Guys, this is not the juggernaut we've had, but that doesn't mean we can't be really good. Let's see what happens.
And this is frankly been my number one issue with a lot of sports fans in LA, is what the relative value of championship or bust from a mental standpoint is year in and year out. And I think that if your manager is the one who needs to adopt the way that just say, okay, calm down. That's as good a person as any, because you never really want to hear that from management, as in the front office. But the person with the team every day is somebody who can temper that message in a day-to-day way or a series-to-series, week-to-week way that I think is a little bit more palatable for fans. Friedman can't come out and say, oh, by the way, this isn't a year that we think we can win the World Series. No. That's not going to happen. That would turn fans away.
But it's light years different from a year ago. Remember, Dave Robertson, I think we're going to win the World Series.
But
very different.
What I'm saying is that I do think there is value to an expectation management based on year-to-year roster construction and not just generalized concepts of what you think your franchise should be.
I'm trying to think of something like playing golf, playing pickup basketball, some things where there are, hey, I need to play well today, or I'm expected to win today, as opposed to I'm just going to go out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's just go out there and see what happens almost always gives you a better result. Almost always.
Especially if you've got guys that understand that mindset and are not. Some teams, some players.
Can't fake it either.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying is some teams, some players, some guys need an environment where the pressure matters, because that's what's going to get them to perform. That's where this becomes such an interesting job of putting together players and bringing back so many former guys on this roster, because it was like, hey, you can come back or we'll bring you back. This might be a little different than what you're used to, and you might like it better. That's where, again, roster construction is such an important thing, well beyond the idea of just expectations. And I think that's where they've done a great job. If Dave thinks that, I can't imagine what the players think right now, which is a good thing.
I wonder how much it takes of just that white knuckle, right, off of Mookie, Freddie, Kershaw, Muncy,
Taylor, part of this as well.
These guys that have been around a long time. Like Kike's kind of come in and out, so he's kind of a tweener. But a lot like James Alman's just kind of guy. I don't know what this feels. Just
right. He doesn't know any better.
Right. This is Miguel Rojas is kind of new to this. I know that Ahmed Rosario's played in some postseason games, but that's more. Hey, if we make it, great. This is win the World Series. Or
sure.
It's a very Lance Lynn is pitching in games for the first time in a while.
Lance Lynn, by the way, quietly, nice little stretch here.
So Lance Lynn and Julio, I got both of these. Are they pitching really well, or did they play the A's, the Rockies, the Padres?
I mean, this is the question for everybody. They, again, I say this. I hate to be mixing metaphors in sports here, and we've done it twice in this segment. I have, at least. If you're a good team, you're supposed to beat bad teams. Like, I'm not taking anything away from
Dodgers
guys.
Are better at that than most
I'm not
anybody.
taking away anything from guys. I say that in the NFL all the time. People are like, oh, they're beating their opponents. They're not that good. Yeah, but they're a good team. You're supposed to beat bad players. Bad teams. That's the whole point. So there's no world in which I'm ever going to take away from beating bad teams if you are a good team.
Ask Big C Why. Coming up next, it's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN. Hey, if you get hurt in an accident, call the accident attorneys at Sweet James. Find out for yourself why they have been awarded best attorneys in America. And big reason is personal injury. It's all that they do. All day, every day, their own time, energy, expertise, resources into strengthening your case so you get the maximum compensation available to you. So what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, Sweet James is going to collect more in a year than most firms are going to collect in their entire lifetimes. Sweet James has collected over $1 billion in settlements in his nearly 20-year career. Billion with a B. You heard me right. So if you're hurt in an accident, do what I've done. Do what my friends have done. Do what I just did last week. Recommended one of my friends to Sweet James. Call the accident attorneys at Sweet James. Car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, whatever it might be, 1-800-9-MILLION. That's 1-800-9-MILLION, 1-800-900-0000, and sweetjames.com.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45. Ask Slee. And Ask Slee is presented by our friends at Harrah's Resort SoCal. Find your funner state of mind with a visit to Harrah's Resort SoCal. Voted best resort in funner California. From dining to unwinding, you'll find fun around every corner. Learn more at harrahssocal.com. Let's get to it. Ask Slee right now.
you want to get in, send them to me at Travis Rogers. You can hashtag them AskBigCY. And, of course, you can do it on the phone as well. 877.
Haven't had a phone one in a while.
No, we haven't. 877-710-ESPN. 877-710-3776.
You know why we haven't had one in a while?
Why?
Because they're gutless! That's why.
Not expecting.
No, I know. That's why I had to.
I thought maybe a Bam was coming, but I was not expecting their gutless.
I saw Morales earlier today, so I was inspired.
He looked like he was
It is a
play
final.
golf. I was a little jealous. He had a nice golf shirt, a golf hat. Looked like he's getting ready to enjoy an afternoon out there.
That's always fun.
I have a question to start us off.
Go ahead.
There was the Hall of Fame inductions for Basketball Hall of Fame this weekend, and usually the person introducing you is someone that's kind of like a teammate, a coworker, someone you were like an assistant of, etc. So if you had to choose in your workplace, like your work life history, who would you want to have induct you into a Hall of Fame?
That's a great question, in fact. I don't really... Dang. The person... Okay, you know who it would be, and this is a deep cut. This is not a person you've heard of. I know as television's Clinton Yates, I've been involved with a lot of characters whose names I've dropped over the course of the years. The person never. The person who it would be is a woman whose name is Vanessa Williams. Not that Vanessa Williams, but her name is Vanessa Williams. She was an editor at the Washington Post who encouraged me to first start writing this newsletter called Lunchline. And what I would do was I would basically just write a couple little things about my life and then do sort of a wrap-up of other stories from around the Post family company products, which then included Slate and like foreign policy and all this stuff. And then I would throw in some other extra things. For whatever reason, this was a wildly popular newsletter. Like, closer to 100,000 people sort of subscribed to it. Impressive. And it was just me talking about whatever. But like, it was the place where, but I did it for 3 months before we ever sent one public because I was working with Vanessa Williams to get my voice right. To like make me sound like the person I really was. I had to develop a voice in order for it to be the thing. The newsletter went so well that they gave me a column. The column went well enough that I got to sports. Got to sports went well enough that I got to ESPN.
That's good. Coach / editor / mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
who that would be. And she's great. She's still at the Post. She's cool as a mug. You know what I mean? And Vanessa Williams. That's who that would be.
I would have one of two people. Like, assuming my occupation is radio. If there was ever a radio thing that I was being inducted into, it would be
phenomenal.
Yep. That would be number one.
Yeah.
That would be number one just because of
it'd have to be him.
Create,
yes, it'd have to be him. Yes.
That's number one. And the other person that I've known the longest in this business is Chris.
Really?
Is Morales.
Morales is... See, now here's where Morales... That's a great Morales role. He would shine in that capacity.
He would kill it. He would be funny. He would be sincere. He would give you the needle. It would be all of those things. And Chris and I have known each other for more than 20 years.
Wow.
We've worked together for more than 20
fantastic.
years. So Jim would be my first choice just because of the wild awkwardness of the whole thing. And that would be terrific. But Chris would be my second choice.
My second answer, since we were going second choices, I appreciate that, would be the person that actually brought me to ESPN, who is now, in fact, the executive editor of the LA Times. And I'll tell this story. I will never forget this. I was working on the local beat. I was writing a column for the Washington Post. I was writing about my city. I lived in my city where I was from. They gave me a chance to go to sports because somebody else had left, and Dan Steinberg, a columnist at the time, was like, you should give it a rip. And I was like, all right, whatever. 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, 3 months go by, and I'm like, yo, bro, I got a column back here about my city. I'm trying to get back to this.
Yeah.
What is the deal? I'm talking to, at the time, one of the people who was a managing editor, Kevin Merida. And he goes, you're not going back to your column. I broke down, Trav. I was upset. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what are we talking about here? I've agreed to do this because you goons, said it to be a good idea. How are you going to take it off? He goes, you know why you're not going back? And I was like, why? He goes, because you're better at this. And I was like, oh. Well, in that case, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. A year later, he took me to ESPN. So that guy would be Kevin Merida. He would probably be the second person on that list.
All right, here's another one. This is from Porky. It says, would you rather lose all of the money that you've earned this year or lose all of the memories that you've created this year?
Probably the money. You know what I'm saying? Probably the money. What is that supposed to mean? The memories, yeah, I mean, the memories are what makes the money worth it. I mean, for lack of a better term, at least to me. Some of the people are in this business because they want to make a lot of cash and they want to be super famous. I only ever really wanted to do anything just once. You know what I'm saying? Like Kentucky Derby once, Super Bowl once. I've done a lot of things a lot of times, but I never wanted to be one of those people that's like, I've been to 35 straight Super Bowls. I'm not interested in that. I just want to experience as many things as possible. So, yeah, the memories are worth way more than the money.
I'm going to do the thing I really am reluctant to do. I'm going to be sincere here for half a second.
Okay.
That's all it's about.
Yeah.
Is creating memories.
Yeah.
That's it. Right? And you can create money. You can create memories with money. You can create them without money.
Definitely.
And quite frankly, the ones that really stick almost never have to do with money.
Right.
Almost never. That when you go through it, a trip, a moment, you remember those things. You don't remember I spent this much on that or these other things. It's all about the memories.
I totally agree. And that's one of those things, too, where people are like, this guy thinks he knows everything. No, man, just been a lot of places, doing a lot of stuff, bro. That's called life experience.
What's that phrase you got from that person? It was don't sweat the small stuff and surprise all small stuff.
This was, you might remember this name. You remember Ira Craig from The Rome Show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
He said this to me. Okay, and Ira was a very specific type of character.
That took me to a place that I have not been in a long time in my mind.
We were doing a remote at one place,
Yeah.
and it wasn't there were some technical problems, all of these things, and I was freaking out.
Yeah.
I was really, because I knew that this was landing on my head
Right.
at the end of the day, that this was going to be my problem, and I was not in a good spot, and he comes up to me, and he was on the top floor, as you like to say. Trav, dude. Don't sweat the small stuff. And here's a little secret. It's all small stuff. And in the moment, I wanted to wring his neck.
I was going to say you wanted to knock him out.
Turns out, pretty much right.
Yeah.
There are very few things that are an actual big deal, and you get to manage them a little bit.
Part of the reason why we're in radio.
Absolutely. Hashtag Ask CY. So we know how much of a drama queen James Harden is. Which ESPN personality from all the shows... This is poorly written. I'm going to fix this. Which personality is James Harden is what
this
they're going for.
This is the worst question possible. I do not. Let me explain something to you. The number one question I field after is your name is what is X, Y, Z, A, B, C through G person like in real life? And I do not understand the obsession with this at all. Respectfully, there was a time when I was just a consumer of sports media, when I looked at people on television and did not know them from Adam. And if I met somebody, the first question I asked them would not be, what is some other person you work with like? Like, I do not get the obsession with this, to the point being that I don't know the answer to your questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I hang out with people that I work with, we don't talk about work like that necessarily. You know what I'm saying? So, drama queens... I mean, you would know as well as I. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to give everybody a little bit of an inside baseball trick here. Don't ask what is so-and-so like, because let me rephrase. You can ask it that way, but you need to listen to the answer is never going to be, that guy's a giant blankety, 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 blank. Listen, if it's, I love that guy, you know what that means. If it's dude, I hang out with that guy all the time, you know what that means. If they talk about their presence on the air or on TV, that means they hate that guy.
Right. There's that too.
Okay, so listen to what they say. If they say, hey, tell me about Joe Blow. Dude, that guy shows up and works hard every single day. That means he hates that person. You need to listen to what the answer is and interpret what it means.
Trav giving away company secrets here, but yeah, right? The obsession with that I feel that question, and you can guess about whom. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say he's rather loud all the time. And it's such a turnoff in general. Not because it's not about me, but it's just like, what kind of a person are you?
That, though, right?
No, honestly. It's just like, what kind of a person are you? Like, trust me, I don't love talking about me. It's just a part of the deal. I'm like, what kind of a human are you? But that's the first thing you go to. It's so weird to me.
Ask Slee is brought to you by Harrah's. Find your funner state of mind with a visit to Harrah's Resort SoCal, voted best resort in funner California. From dining to unwinding, you'll find fun around every corner. Learn more at harrahssocal.com. The preseason college football rankings are out.
Ooh.
Where did the Trojans land? Not so bad. That's coming up next. It's Trav and Slee. Yates is in for Slee on 710 ESPN.
The most followed sports radio station in America.
710 ESPN. 710 ESPN.
A good karma brands radio station. It's Travis Rogers, Alan Sliwa. Travis and Sliwa.
But do you think it's the right move? Do you think it's the right strategy?
No. Live from LA Live on 710 ESPN.
So, Travis, we've been teasing it. You teased it 10 minutes ago. We really need to know how this PA thing went, because I can't imagine it went that poorly.
Home of the Dolphins.
Home of the Dolphins.
What's the sound again?
A little early on a Monday for this.
You caught me flat-footed on that. I'm not going to lie.
After Sunday,
you caught me a little.
We might have to go to the drop on that.
I will give it to you, but I have to do it on my own timetable. So I am the PA voice for the high school that my kids.
Hold on. Let's break this down. The reason that you missed your childhood idol's number retirement ceremony was because your maiden voyage on the PA at the local high school was underway.
Yes.
So just so we have an understanding of what you gave up in order for this experience to begin. I just want to make that clear to the listeners.
And
that you passed on Fernando Mania being celebrated to do what?
Incredibly excited to do it, too.
Yes.
Like, not just something that I'm doing reluctantly or something that I'm doing like, whatever. I'm excited to do it. When I was asked to do it, I was in an enthusiastic yes. So, turns out, thankfully, it was a scrimmage, much more so than a traditional game. So, it was, as M so eloquently put it, preseason for everybody. I had been given a roster prior to the game, the day before the game, that I had prepared for, right? So, this person is this number, okay? So they take the field, and apparently there was a bit of a snafu that the visiting team showed up with a colored jersey that the home team was getting ready to wear.
Oh, no.
So the home team, obviously, it was the only other team that had jerseys readily available, so they had to change into alternate jerseys.
Which means that every number was just completely thrown out of the window off the rip.
Off the rip. Exactly right. So the game starts, and I know who the starting quarterback of this team is, or at least the person that I'm anticipating, who has been kind of number one on the depth chart, right? So it goes out, and I'm like, that ain't that kid's number, but I'm in the press, but all I can do is, I can't see the kid's face. He's got a helmet on.
I mean, this is awkward, too, at this point.
So I'm not even going to put the real names in there. I say Timmy Thompson at quarterback for the Dolphins, and I see a few heads kind of turn around like, First play, gain of 6, ball completed to, Jack Johnson at the 9-yard line. A couple more. So I go through like 2 full possessions of this, calling quarterback, calling receivers, calling tackles, all of these things.
Okay.
Finally, and thankfully, somebody had the courage or kindness to come up and say, man, I don't know what to tell you, but every single kid you've gotten wrong.
Wow.
And Gates, I swear to you, I've never been more defensive in my entire life. I said, hey, look, like this is.
And you're not that type. You're not that type. You normally wear it.
You're supposed to do guess.
Well, that's I'm like, and they're like, oh well, the quarterback is Bob Baker, and I'm like, well, how am I supposed to? I don't have a kid on the team. I can only go by what I'm seeing through my binoculars and the jersey on the kid's back.
Right.
And so I took a couple of series off to collect my thoughts.
I was going to say, like at that point, you almost have to go full journalist and just go down to the sideline and say, hey, who are you? Please tell me your name and number.
My other thought, instead of going full journalist, was to just leave and start drinking.
There's that. Yes, of course.
Well, where's your spotter in all of this?
He had the same roster I had.
Why doesn't he go, hey, I'm going to go get this stuff for you while you're calling me?
I'm not. No, that is not his response. I appreciate the idea, Emily. Yeah. You're not off, but so we basically kind of looked at each other, took a series off, and basically just said, 2nd and 10 for the Dolphins.
The names went out the window.
We just stopped player identifying. We didn't even call them the numbers. We just started to say down and distance, touchdown. Here's the penalty, holding on Sunny Hills and this kind of thing. But it got off to a rough start.
Well, okay, so I need to know a couple more details. Okay. Which is, what was the time elapsed between the roster you were like, if you knew roster immediately, that is a very annoying.
That's the point.
It is if you knew what if it's 8:15 in the evening, and they're changing jerseys, and the game has been delayed by, let's just say, 10 minutes. What are you doing in that interim? Because clearly something's going to go awry. Was there any mitigation possible beforehand once you knew, oh, I see that things have changed?
I didn't know things had changed until we were halfway through the first quarter.
Oh. So you weren't familiar. You didn't know the jersey situation happened.
I was told that when the person that I communicate with to get these things, I said, hey, this roster's wrong. And he explained to me why. The roster actually is accurate. The kids just put on different jerseys because they were.
So, but you were not there whilst that happened?
No.
Okay. That's too bad.
No.
Yeah.
Had I seen the quarterback take off number 9 and put on number 44,
right.
I would have been like, hey, what the hell's going on?
Exactly. Okay.
I had no idea. They just broke the huddle and 44 went behind center. I'm like, guess that kid's playing quarterback. It was
wow.
I felt so stupid.
So what happens for next time?
I've been told that it will be rectified by the time we get to what will be the second regular season game. They open on the road.
On the road, okay.
So by the
are
time
you going to go
there,
watch them on the road to do your own scouting, perhaps?
to
see
like
who's
it.
actually.
Okay, so here's the problem with that question. I want to. I really, really want to.
I know. That's why I brought it up. I was like, this is the kind of move he would make.
We're walking out after the game, my buddy Greg and I said to him, I said, look, I said, I reserve the right to deny this if you ever repeat it to anybody else. But do you want to go watch him play on the road next Friday so I can get up to speed? And
I had a feeling.
He goes, well, yeah, maybe, but I also reserve the right to tell everyone that you asked me that. So, yeah.
Where do they play?
University High in Irvine.
If I was here, I would. If I was here, I would consider going to that game with you. But I don't think I'm going to be in.
Hey, for my rate for $200, I can go and take care of that for you.
It might be worth it.
Might be useful. Yeah,
it might be worth it.
I was hoping you were going to say that you started drinking, and then we got a Brockmeyer situation in the second half where you just started unloading on people in the crowd who you didn't like.
Look, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but it was a situation where my odds of success in that were very, very low considering what had happened.
Okay. That's an extreme S show, like as far as your role is concerned.
And the best part is we're walking out, and I said to Greg, I'm like, still had a pretty good time. I still had a lot of fun. I didn't get to break out my...
There it
I
is.
didn't get to do that.
There it is.
They won. So
they
exciting.
won.
They did.
Okay.
They did.
All right. That's an upset, at least from my understanding of the situation. Who was the person that said something to you? Do you know who
I'm
it was?
assuming it was one of the dads.
Okay. Guy around your age, like, would just like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. A brother in arms came to you and was like,
good.
yo. Can you imagine if it had been some wacky Karen who was all mad at you?
So,
like that could have gone much worse.
There were two other people running the scoreboard in this thing, and one of them says to me after the dad who bailed me out, comes in and said, "Hey, God, you're wrong on everybody." I'm like, okay. One of the other people in the booth says to me, "Goes, yeah, we knew they were wrong, but I didn't want to say anything."
What?
Like,
Why would you say that?
Come on. Like, let's go.
Wow.
Like it's that you would have saved me the event.
That's
anyway.
I know you're not trying to throw people under the bus, but that's tough. That's tough to hear. Yeah.
That fool wanted the gig. That's why he didn't say anything.
Let's just see how long this goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, okay. All right. Wow.
It was an inauspicious beginning to my public address career. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so morale is okay though.
Morale's great.
Okay.
Oh no, we went and had a few beers afterwards.
Sure.
It was great.
I mean, because that's the kind of situation too where it's like, and I'm not saying you're this kind of a person, or I don't know, the type of person at like ESPN who's a drama queen that these people keep asking me about, but I could see some people being like, oh, by the way, guess what? I won't be returning. Right. Yeah. Don't put me in a situation like that. Certainly don't have your people not actually picking me up when I'm stranded on the base paths. You know what I'm saying? I should not have to hear from Rick in the field what's going on with his son.
It could have turned into an in-and-out spiral too. Like,
right.
who knows?
Right, you know?
Yeah, it could have. It was fun. I'm still incredibly ecstatic about doing it.
It's good.
I'm very, very excited. It will be great. By the time we get to week 2, we're going to have it all buttoned up,
everything
all
worked out,
over, and ready to go.
All right.
You never have to miss a moment on 710 ESPN. Have you downloaded the new ESPN LA app? Just search ESPN LA in your App Store or Google Play. Download, tap, and bam! You've got 710 in the palm of your hand. One click to listen live, all of the podcasts in one place, and more. The all-new ESPN LA app. Get it today. So the first AP poll of the season, the preseason poll, is out. By the way, we're playing real football in college football here in 2 Saturdays.
Correct.
At 26th.
Yeah, 26. So we got 2 Saturdays away. San Jose State for USC. No big surprise, 2-time national champion. Georgia still in the top spot. Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, Alabama 4, LSU 5. This feels very familiar. USC is in the 6th spot to start the season.
How about that?
Defending Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams coming back. You've got Lincoln Riley in his 2nd year in the program. And SC is in a position that this stuff matters a little bit, not nearly as much as it used to when your ranking does.
I don't know about that. It matters a lot where you start because it's hard to get up the ranks if you don't start towards the top.
Not if you're SC, but yet generally speaking, if you're Oregon State, it's hard to go from unranked to the top. But SC, they're going to move them up pretty quickly.
Right.
But this feels about right, and this puts them in a position to have the year that we're hoping they have, which is let Caleb Williams go nuts, score a bunch of points, and just have your defense be a little bit better. Doesn't have to be good. It just can't be catastrophically bad as it was a year ago. And 4 teams in it. This is the last year of 4, right? Next year we expand it. So
yes.
we only have 4 teams this year. So you got to move up a little bit, but you have ample opportunity to do it starting at 6.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
It's also interesting that there is 5 teams that will be in the Big Ten next year that are in the top 10. So it's Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Penn State, and Washington are all in the top 10 right now. And next year, they'll all be part of the Big Ten.
Is your implication here that people, because they want USC in the game, are willing to look over deficiencies that team has worse than other teams?
People know what it is. It's a brand name that people recognize.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But,
I still think, and I know that...
Do you think the team has improved that much?
No. I think, but I don't think it has to improve a ton. It needs to improve incrementally in one very specific way, and that's defensively. And it's not even a USC thing. It's a Lincoln Riley thing. Lincoln Riley wins just about every game he plays. They score about 40 or 50 points in just about every game they play. And when they lose 48-45.
No, I get
Almost
it.
without exception.
Right.
So if you can just get a stop or 2 in that one game where you're just trading touchdowns, they're going to be right there.
They don't need to be Georgia on the defense. They need to be average. They have been below average to terrible in most of these seasons under Lincoln Riley. So all they have to do is be like number 30 in the country, and they could probably get into the college
That's
football
why I'm
playoff.
surprised that they're ranked this high. Frankly, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, wow, this is
It's the Caleb Williams, and they do win those games.
This is somewhat surprising to me, is what I'm saying.
Really?
They ended their season on a loss to Tulane last year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that one's not as detrimental to me as the second loss to Utah.
Again, they weren't even the best team in their conference. I mean, and that's where I don't follow recruiting like that in college football. That's why I was legitimately asking you, has something changed
they
from
got
the end of last year?
Oklahoma State, who's supposed to be pretty good.
I don't doubt that. I'm just wondering what actually changed.
Know, to me, Clinton felt a lot like me at the softball game. It's like,
sure,
I'm going to come and I'm going to have a good time, but I'm not really. I don't care what the result of this thing is. That one, the Utah ones are, hey, listen, you can't stop
all of it.
Caleb
happened.
Also
though.
got injured in that game too, and who would have known if Caleb would have stayed healthy in that
Perhaps,
Utah game?
But I was just saying, all of it happened. I was surprised to see them top 10, no doubt about it, without an obvious improvement somewhere that I didn't otherwise know about.
I think what's interesting too is let's say this year goes exactly like the other Lincoln Riley years. Let's say they finish 11-2. And in the 11 wins, they look amazing. And in the 2 losses, it's because you couldn't hold the other team under 40 points.
Right. Or you lost to a better team, which is
that would be fine. Like if you went and played Georgia and you lost 28-24, okay, there's no shame in that. But if you lost to Utah again, 49-47, that's a problem. If you lose to Oregon 51-50,
right,
we got a problem. What do you do to address that? Because that's not just, hey, it happened again. Every single year, that's the recipe to miss if you're a Lincoln.
You always have a Heisman candidate, and so there's also that there too. Your offense is amazing. You're a Heisman candidate that gets people excited to watch USC
you're not
games.
thinking about moving on from them. That's not the point
at
all.
No. It's just what do you actually do to adjust?
What do you actually do to fix it?
By better team, I was referring to Utah in those teams as well, and that's sort of what I'm getting at. I'm like, hold on. I'm going to need to see this team beat a good team before I'm just assuming that they need to be in the top 10 of anything.
Shohei Ohtani is going to skip his next start due to arm fatigue, and then he still showed why everybody's going to be lined up to give the man $1 billion. That's next. It's Travis Slee. Yates is in for Slee on 710 ESPN. Football is back, and I'm here to remind you that Vivid Seats has your back for all of your ticket needs. Not only is Vivid Seats the official ticketing partner of ESPN, they have a 100% buyer guarantee, and they're the only ticket company that rewards you for buying. This football season, catch every pass, every tackle, and every heart-pounding play live and in person. To get great deals on great seats, download their app or visit vividseats.com today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. Just got a tweet in the Trav and Slee community, the Trav and Slee All-Stars. Dan Peralta says, Trav, the marketing director of In-N-Out Burger, and he sent this to me and Emily. It's a picture of the box that looks like a double-double with grilled onions and animal fries and some sort of dark-colored soft drink along the side. And Dan, like I said, it doesn't take much to get that little, you know what sounds good, and boom, you're in line. That's how it goes.
It looks fantastic.
Of course it
good
does.
shot.
How do you not have In-N-Out spots at this point? Like, how has that eluded you your entire career?
If they came along, I'd do it enthusiastically.
Super crosstalk.
This is one of these things that I'm just happy to just be a consumer straight up. I'm a devotee.
Got it. By the way, I strongly contemplated changing shirts in the break just to see how you would react to new uniforms and being thrown off, just like you were at the football game, just to see how you might.
Well, see, here's the deal. You're not wearing a helmet, and I know what you look like.
You know who I am, so that really wouldn't.
You're also across the table and not across a field.
The binoculars didn't help you.
You can't see the faces.
You can't
with
see
a football
anything.
helmet. You just. And by the way, I don't know how many kids are on the team. 60, give or take.
Sure.
I might know 4 of them.
Okay.
I might know 4 of them. And of those 4, I would say, I know you. You've been in my house. You're a friend of my son's.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't think I know their names on site. It was an absolute S show.
I love that. I love that that's how that went.
You should have seen the look on my face when they told me. I had that you get those competing emotions all at the same time. I was angry.
Right.
I was embarrassed.
Clearly.
I was defensive. And I was just and on the 4th emotion through the gate was amused.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay,
that tracks.
Actually kind of funny that went as badly as it did. Because for something that is relatively low stakes that I care about the way that I do, to have it go that badly.
Even that wasn't really on the board. Yeah, exactly. Of all the things that were going to happen, that was going to be questionable. That's funny.
What are you going to do? I can't. And here's the thing: I can't wait for the next one.
Of course not.
I can't wait. It's going to be good. So, the worst possible outcome of Shohei Ohtani's tenure in Anaheim is 7 weeks away.
Correct.
Okay, which is no playoff appearances. He leaves at the end of the year, signs with another team, and your only tangible thing to show for his time here as far as a baseball organization moving forward is a compensatory pick between the second and the third round.
Outside of the experience of seeing Ohtani for a year.
That's different. But you're talking about somebody who could have helped you replenish a farm system that is way down the list of major league teams as far as major league ready prospects that they have.
Correct.
We'll get to that in a second. I want to read you some numbers here. During the time that Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout have been teammates, so it's not all of the there are more to this than just this, but these are the 5+ years that they have been teammates together. They've combined for 8 All-Star teams. Mm-hmm. They've combined for 5 Silver Sluggers. They've combined for a Rookie of the Year award, which would be Ohtani's, obviously not Trout's, was before that. 3 MVP awards, assuming that Ohtani wins the MVP this year, which he's going to. And 0 seasons that have ended over 500. It is stunning to think that you're going to have that player with that other player. You're going to have 6 years of them together and virtually nothing to show for it. And you got to see yet another layer of Ohtani's greatness yesterday when it was announced that he's not going to start. They start a series in Texas tonight. He's not going to pitch in that series because of arm fatigue. And then he goes out and he beats the Astros with a home run in the 6th inning. This is why, however much he gets, $500 million, $600 million,
sure.
$800, whatever the number is, he's worth it because as good as he is at one, he's just as good at the other, and you're getting those two guys, and that they're going to have botched this to the level that they have is extraordinary to me.
You know, I'm starting to be at the point now where how to explain this? I've said this before in regards to, and I use this term a lot in regards to the NFL, which is contenders, pretenders, participants. You know what I'm saying? And then terrible. Like, the Halos have been in the participant range of Major League Baseball for a really, really long time. And the only reason I bring that up is because I don't know a ton of Halos fans, but I do know that it's clear that this fan base does not care the same way that a lot of other people do. That's why Moreno continues to get away with this kind of signing guys
what would
who
you like
are
to see him do?
Good. Sorry?
What would you like to see him do?
I don't know the answer to that, but what I'm saying is that, like, if this is how Moreno's going to run the operation, constantly overpaying for random people he likes that don't actually bring anything to the gate outside of their ability to play baseball, this is what you're going to get. And if Halos fans continue to accept that, well, then I don't feel bad for really anybody involved. And I also don't think that fans would look at this as a huge waste. I think that the standard is simply different for what to expect out of the experience if that's the team you're choosing to root for at this stage. Meaning it's been like this for long enough where there's no world in which I could say, oh, my God, I can't believe they blew it again, because that's not even part of the operation. You know what I'm saying? Clearly, and again, I know this because I've seen franchises work like this. They're not interested in winning anything. They're interested in getting the gate, having some relative, relevance in their market and sort of making money on the margins that they can and getting on with it. That is clear to me what the Halos operation is at this point. Clear to me. And so, yeah, you can say they could have done this, they could have done that. I'll bet you them and many fans are upset about it in the larger sense, but are happy the fact that they got to see and they got to say a couple things along the line.
I agree with 80% of that. I think the part that I think they do want to win. I think Artie Moreno desperately wants to win. I just don't think he knows how to do it.
Okay.
And I don't think his personality will allow him to do the thing that's obvious to everybody outside of that bubble that the team operates in. Because he needs to just say, here's the money. Hire Perry Manassian's done a pretty good job as far as being with what he's been allowed to do. They're getting better. But this was so... If your goal is to win, then this was a no-brainer because I went down the rabbit hole yesterday on MLB.com, and I started looking at the list of the top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball. Okay, I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. The team with the most is the Baltimore Orioles. They have 6 of the top 100. Makes perfect sense. They've been towards the bottom of the league for a very long time. They've been picking very high. The higher you pick, theoretically, the better prospects you're getting, the more likely you are to find good players. Okay? They've got 6. The Dodgers, who have been the exact opposite of that, have picked near the bottom of each of these rounds for several years, have 5 of the top 100. Okay?
Okay.
The San Diego Padres, who presumably just emptied their farm system to go acquire Juan Soto, have 5. 2 in the top 10. Okay? The Anaheim Angels, who have been picking near the top of the draft, have 1. And the one they have in Logan O'Hoppe is basically a major leaguer already. He's just getting healthy again to come back and play. They have 1. They could have juiced that thing to a level with whatever Ohtani, not only on your big league roster, but on your developmental roster to try to get guys better. And that instead, because there is no scenario that exists where he comes back.
No.
There just isn't one.
No, and that's why I'm in a completely different paradigm with that franchise at this point. When they signed the biggest local rights deal that had ever been signed, you would have thought, oh, well, they're going to be using that money to be competing at the highest level. No, that never, ever happened. And trust me, Trav, I've seen this. I saw this in my own hometown. The Washington Wizards are the perfect example. Their goal is to hang around and be relevant, kind of give you a reason to come into the building every 2 or 3 years, maybe have a star or two, and let the business run itself. The goal is not trying to sacrifice anything to win. The goal is not actually trying to get better at what you're doing. The goal is to just operate within the framework of the league and make sure you are solvent and making money, and therefore giving yourself a reason to do the job. That is clearly how the Halos are operating at this point, even if their owner is a bumbling idiot who gives people too much money on a regular basis. But you know what I'm saying? I just can't believe that you're in it for a good faith effort to try to win everything. And reminder, kiddos, a lot of teams operate this way in a lot of sports. Trust me.
But they spend money recklessly in some spots, don't do it in others. They spend it on the wrong guys. And you finally had something that was almost impossible to mess up. And they did.
But that's why it's a bad combination to have an emotional owner with a guy that's not really that concerned about what it takes to win if they can't do it his way. That's what I'm saying. And that, to me, is an indication that you're not taking these unserious actors in the space is what it is. And I don't think it's just because there's stupid, for lack of a better term. I just don't think that it's really that much of a priority. I really don't.
I disagree with that. That's the part I disagree with. I don't think it's stupidity. I don't think it's I just want to squeeze every dollar. I think it's hubris. I think it's ego.
Yeah.
I think it's this belief that because I was wildly successful in column A, that translates to columns B, C, and D.
Perhaps.
And it doesn't. The guys that are great in column A that have success in B, C, and D are guys that realize who's the best in column B. Get him.
Right.
Who's the best in column? Get him. And let them go run their shop. And that's not what's happening.
And that's why I don't think that it actually is a real priority even in his mind. You see what I'm saying? Because that is clearly evident from a simple leadership standpoint, whatever you want to call it, corporate, wherever you may be. Get the best people. If you're not interested in getting the best people, you're not actually serious about winning.
It reminds me of one of my all-time favorite memes, which is a picture of Trout and Ohtani together at the World Baseball Classic, and it said, imagine if they were on the same team.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, again,
Nada.
It's at this point, I don't even look at it as a wasted opportunity. To me, the Halos are executing exactly what they wanted to execute the entire time.
Factor Cap coming up next. It's Trav and Slee, 710 ESPN. Talk to my guy Armando, who played in our softball game out at Rotolo Chevrolet this morning. This is how great the guys at Rotolo are. They're going to make sure that they treat everybody like you're the most important person that walks onto the lot at Rotolo Chevrolet, because you are. As simple as that. This is why they've been Dealer of the Year 12 years in a row. Think about winning a championship 12 years in a row, winning MVP 12 years in a row. That's what happens at Rotolo Chevrolet. Go find out for yourself what all the fun is about. Right off the 210 freeway, Sierra Avenue exit. You can't miss them. And every Silverado you can mention, they've got it there. You're going to find exactly the make and model that you're looking for. You're going to find it at a great price. But what you're going to find at only Rotolo Chevrolet is the best customer service experience of your entire life. If you can't get in, go online. RotoloChevy.com. That's ROTOLO, RotoloChevy.com. Find out what all the fun is about and tell them that Travis sent you.
Is what that sounds
Were
like.
they affectionate towards one
Yeah.
another?
Did they like each other? You know what I'm saying? Goodness gracious.
Was there heavy
Word
petting?
police between all of you guys. Jeez. I just want to know some details. I don't think that's a problem.
Is the Hollywood Bowl a good second date?
Yes, it is a great second date.
Especially if you're
heavy petting.
Yeah.
It's a very crowded area, though. It's a little I don't know.
It doesn't matter. You're in a good place. But either way, yes, it's a great day, especially if you don't know the band like you're talking about. Maggie Rogers was her name.
Yeah.
I think that's actually great, where it's a situation where you both can learn whether you like these people together, or you can also hate it together, or kind of see what your interests are.
Yeah,
So,
that's the best part. Fact is that the double blind scenario is the best part about that situation, whether you're at the Hollywood Bowl or not. But I have a separate question here, which is, when did trivia humans start self-proclaiming themselves into the master's zone?
What they call the people
Like
that host
when
trivia.
I hosted trivia and was attending trivia in my day, which was not that long ago, you were just the host. You were not a master of anything simply by coming up with questions
I think
and
it's
answers.
the specific company that does it labels
okay.
them as such.
All right, because that
and therefore
seems
they're the lead.
It's a high bar
I
to
get
be a
it,
master
but
of something.
that's what I'm
Don't
saying.
you want to pump yourself up? What's wrong with being called that?
You are on one
I-
today.
I'm
How
not-
was your
I'm just enjoying
weekend,
it.
Greg Bergman?
It's good.
No, what I'm saying
I
is
have
that
a
like,
weekend.
I feel like
Was there any? Never mind.
Unfortunately, no heavy petting.
what I'm saying is,
Greg, stop.
like, does he refer to himself as a master?
No, we were like, oh, hey, he's our trivia master.
Okay,
That's
all right, just making sure, because that seems like a lot to be calling somebody who's like a
okay.
peer,
Semantics.
Mr. Trivia Master. How are you?
All right, Jorge.
Hey, Jake. Yeah, I've never been to the Hollywood Bowl, and first date, second date, third date, it sounds like they would have an amazing time regardless. So, yeah.
Yeah, you might like it too.
How have you managed to skip the Hollywood Bowl your whole life?
I don't know. It just, there's never been an act that I've, wanted to go
Was
watch.
interested in? Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
All right, so this came to mind because I was watching Justin Herbert being interviewed on ESPN. So here's my statement. You would rather forever have acne than forever have bad teeth. Okay,
Oh.
so here's the situation. You either have to have acne on your face for the rest of your life at all times, or have bad teeth forever, all times, cannot change it. All right, so Berg, the statement is you would rather have acne. Berg, Patrick Cap.
That is cap. I'd rather have the bad teeth because you can cover up your teeth. When you have acne all over your face, there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
I mean, if we can't use anything to get rid of it, like the Accutane or anything like that,
getting
nothing
rid of it.
works.
Yes.
I would rather be able to cover my mouth, like never smile, kind of have my teeth not being shown, than having my face be full of acne.
Okay, Yates.
I will say rather have bad teeth, for lack of a better term. I know a ton of people who have terrible teeth because I know quite a few British individuals in my life.
Why they
And
gotta be British?
Like, because British people famously have. Do you not know this about the world?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I hope I don't have to educate you on that, buddy. But
Why does it matter that they're British?
because that's the highest percentage of people in like the Western world who have terrible teeth. That's like a known
I
thing.
mean, I get it. That was a whole Austin Powers joke, but I don't know. I just don't
They
see why
just
it
don't-
happens only there.
There's a scene in The Simpsons where they have the big book of British smiles.
Yeah, it's
They
like
don't
just not.
value
It's not a thing that they
No,
value
I know,
very
I know.
highly.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
so
Good afternoon.
goodness gracious.
afternoon.
Anyway, so yes, I would go with teeth because I've known plenty of people who have made this choice basically in their lives, and yeah, that's what they chose.
Trev.
It's Cap. I had terrible acne as a kid. Terrible, like to the point I was on the Accutane.
Accutane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is but works really well, except for when like you sneeze and your whole face starts to bleed because you're so dry.
Oh,
it's just
geez.
Yeah.
it is a real thing. You can smile without opening your mouth. You can kind of conceal that a little bit. I've been on the one side, and it was, and especially when you're in 8th and 9th grade, not great.
Bad
You're
for-
a little
bad for
self-conscious
business.
under the best of circumstances.
Right.
Throw that on top. So no, and if the choice is acne or the other thing, I'm always going to take the other thing.
Jorge.
I'll go with the bad teeth as well. Yeah, acne, you can't hide it, and if we can't use any cream or anything, then I'm out. Give
It's
me the
amazing
bad
to me that like as a human, like as a race of things, we haven't, what's the word, evolved out of like horrible acne. You know
Well,
what I'm
it's the
saying?
hormones that
I feel
kick
like
off.
it's something
Yeah,
that we
right?
should have figured out by now as a human, as
The hormones,
genetics.
the chemicals. It's
Yeah.
a lot of what we eat. It's a lot of genetics. It's a lot of
Humans
stuff.
not that
Yeah.
smart, not running the best program. You know what I mean?
All right, so Winning Time is happening right now. We had the first 2 episodes of the second season, as well as on this day in 2020 was when Ted Lasso premiered. So I know a couple of us either watch Winning Time and Ted Lasso, or watch one or the other, but they're both pretty good versions of dramatized sports television. All right, so you like dramatized sports television. Yates, Fetcher Cap.
Fact, I don't watch Ted Lasso, but there are a lot of, like Brock Meyer I told you I liked.
Yep.
I liked the Kenny Powers show was okay. I could bear with that. I have a very, how do I say this? Refined desire for those. Like, it's got to hit a very specific part of my interest in order to really keep me. And so Winning Time does that quite well.
I think for me, it's fact. I like dramatized things that I know the actual events. Like, I love Winning Time. I think it's incredibly interesting. I'll go back to what was not the 30 for 30 doc, but the one that was on FX about the OJ trial. Was it the People versus OJ Simpson?
American. What's his?
I think there
was two different
the
ones.
The FX one I think was People versus OJ Simpson.
Yes.
With David Schwimmer and Cuba Gooding.
There's the 30 for 30.
And I knew that story really, really well. I've lived through that entire era in the town that it was taking place. I love those things. I can't get enough of them because it's nostalgic, it's interesting, and hopefully you learn one or two things along the way.
Yeah, it's Cap. I mean, it's
American
fact.
Crime Story is what I was looking for.
Yeah. It's fact. I loved dramatized sports shows. Ted Lasso is one of my favorite shows that I've watched. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic the entire way through. I understood what they were trying to get at. It was just a happy making show. It was just a positive show, especially at a time when we really needed that positivity. And also, I really like Winning Time. I understand that it's not exactly what happened in that time. I understand that Jerry West wasn't crying in a corner in his underwear. That's fine. Whether or not he was doing that or not doesn't matter. I like
still good TV.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm
just good TV.
I'm so over the accuracy element with Winning Time. Like, can we watch the show?
It's not trying to be accurate.
Exactly.
What is
I
it?
don't
Based
need
on
that.
true
Everything
events?
is fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see based on true events, that means that the names are right and nothing else
Yeah.
is.
Right. It's okay.
Based is the main word there. It's based, is fully true events. So yeah, I love it.
All right, I have one more left for you guys. So this is
What about Jorge?
This is a follow-up for the so a Dodger fan heckled Manny Machado 3 years ago, and then is following up this heckle the past series between the Dodgers and Padres. So I'm going to play it for you right now.
Manny, congrats! With that big of a contract, you've got 10 Octobers off now. 10 straight Octobers off. Come on, you could have had it all with LA.
It's my contract.
What?
We'll win the World Series before you guys do.
Manny, do you remember me? You made a bet for your contract 4 years ago. Where's my $300 million?
So essentially, he was heckling Manny Machado. Manny Machado is like, "We'll win a World Series before you do. I'll bet my paycheck that we will." And therefore, this Dodger fan followed up later on, "Hey, where's my paycheck?" All right, so you like this follow-up heckle. Travis Fettercap.
It's elaborate. It's pretty good. It's fact. I don't expect that guy to cut him a $300 million check. That there's blank talk and then there's making an actual wager. This was the first thing, but I like that the guy went out of his way to run it back at the guy. I have not seen a two-part, if you will. It's something I liked a lot.
Berg?
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that he went after it. Maybe it's because it's Manny Machado that I love it even more.
That's a good point.
But either way, to make a good heckle, you have to be able to continue with it. And the fact that he was able to continue with it and actually come through with it, I love the fact.
Yates?
This is Cap. To me, the goal of heckling is to either be super mean or super funny, and this is neither for me. This is sort of self-serving, and it's okay, but this doesn't really work for me, and the brand of heckling I enjoy specifically. This is just a very look-at-me kind of situation, as opposed to like you were trying to make the crowd laugh or you were actually trying to hurt somebody's feelings.
What about the irony of something like when you did, for instance, you being appalled to self-promotion?
I'm not appalled to it. I just don't think it works well. There's a difference, okay?
He's television's Clinton Yates.
Yeah, I'm not self-promoting. That's them promoting. But no, it didn't work for well as me as I think other people did.
You saw episode 2.
I did.
All right, we're doing that next.
Yep.
Travis Lee, 710 ESPN. Hey, if you get hurt in an accident, call Sweet James. It is as simple as that. If you get hurt in a car, truck, motorcycle accident, if you get hurt, dog bite, call the accident attorneys at Sweet James and find out for yourself why they've been awarded best attorneys in America. You don't want to take on that insurance company by yourself. They're going to try to get it done quickly and then move on to the next one, and they're not going to get you what you deserve. That's why I've called Sweet James after accidents. That's why I've recommended it to my friends after they've been involved in accidents. If you are injured in an accident, call Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. That's 1-800-900-00 because you want a firm like Sweet James that has experience, nearly 20 years, used to work for the insurance companies, knows the ins and outs of that like nobody else, has a winning record helping injured victims get the medical care that you need with life-changing settlements. So if you're hurt in an accident, do what I've done, my friends have done, my family have done, and call the accident attorneys at Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. That's 1-800-900-0000. And, of course, sweetjames.com. So Al and I are teaming up for your chance.
The most followed sports radio station in America.
710 ESPN.
At ESPN Los Angeles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code Radio50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
Sedano and Cap.
It's the LA Afternoon Takeover.
Pepe, you come in here, Jack. You're going to declare your independence, homeboy.
Pepe, siéntate, por favor.
Yeah,
sí.
Siéntate, por
Be
favor.
nice to Pepe, Chris.
First of all, I've been great to Pepe for like a week.
I'm
Travis and Sliwa.
But do you think it's the right move? Do you think it's the right strategy?
No. Live from LA Live on 710 ESPN.
It's time for us here at 710 to get some fall interns. Are you a current college student or have one living in your house? They can apply for a paid internship. Hey, listen to that, Yates. A paid internship. How
about that?
And you can earn college credits this fall at 710 ESPN. Here's how you do it. You go to goodkarmabrands.com/careers. Let me give it to you again. goodkarmabrands.com/careers. If you're looking for a little fall internship this year. We had a great crop of guys and girls come through here last group and be a part of it. It's a great way to do it.
On National Intern Day, we all kind of like went around in a circle and told us about how we got started in our careers, and almost all of us started out as interns. So it's always a great way to get into this field if you're interested in that at all.
KEYT, Santa Barbara ABC affiliate, was my first ever media opportunity as an intern.
My first ever one was at the George Michael Sports Machine. At
No
WRC4.
way!
Oh, yeah. Your boy's been hitting it hard ever since I got into the league.
George Michael. That is.
Yeah.
Emma, I know you know. Well, maybe are you old enough to know George Michael?
Probably
tell
a
me
little
bit about
probably
him.
a little bit past your time. So the way that it worked was he ran a national.
Did you ever get to hit the button?
Yeah, I got to hit the button. Of course, that was a big deal. He ran a nationally syndicated sports highlight show back when local TV still sort of mattered.
He
in
would
the
come
same
on
way.
after your local news.
And before SportsCenter was sort of a thing. And so he was, in fact, an old radio DJ, which is the style that he brought to his broadcast.
He was a DC guy.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm getting at. But he was a radio DJ in the 70s, you know, one of the big bopper DJs as he was known. And so the whole idea of putting music under highlights and the whole idea of just showing goofy stuff like bloopers on television, that was him. The idea of showing passes and crashes in NASCAR and rodeo clowns doing wild stuff, this all came from George Michael because he knew he had to draw in more than just the average four major sports.
You literally took the next thing out of my mouth.
Yeah.
The thing I remember most about George Michael were NASCAR highlights and rodeo.
The reason
every time, because they would come in, give you a little NFL, a little MLB, a little NBA, whatever it was, but there was always a NASCAR feature and frequently a bull riding rodeo feature.
Number one, the reason I like NASCAR is because I used to chart races at WRC TV Channel 4 for that. And number two, that's where I learned having a varied palette is good for your interest, not only in this business, but in your life. George was a big horse racing guy too, which was his personal interest. But his philosophy was, if somebody likes it, I probably can find a reason to like it, and if I can show them what they like, they'll like me. And I've always kept that mentality.
No, that I really I love that you worked on the sports machine nearly as much as I found out that you used to be a bank teller, which I found out 3 minutes ago.
So my freshman year of college, I went to NYU, and I thought I was going to be some hotshot business guy because I didn't really know anything about the world. And it turns out I did not like that because, number one, wearing suits sucks. And number two, I do not necessarily like New York that much. And so I came back home and I was like, I didn't really have a job and I needed something to do to make money. My buddy, who did not go to college, he started working at a bank. He was like, well, you want to work at the bank with me? So for a year, like a good solid school year, I was a bank teller. And that's just what I did. I was, I'd sit and listen to my radio and read the newspaper every day.
You know what else you need other than an internship? And I want to get your guys in on this too. Not only do you need the job that tells you this is what I want to do, you need the job that tells you what you don't want to do.
Correct.
You need to do the job that makes you go, I don't like this.
I didn't hate it,
but I don't want to do this.
I know what I did the entire time I was not doing the job when I was at the job.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
have a job that you like, you're not spending 80% or 50% of your time doing something else. You're doing the work.
And to me, it was just what I did on my downtime and as a leisurely way to pass the time. But when it was time for me to try to go back to college, my dad was like, bro, all you do is read the newspaper and listen to the radio. Why don't you give that a shot? Good call, Pop.
Jorge, was Denny's that for you?
What, I don't want to be here?
No. I don't like this. I want to do something else. Did you like that job?
I did because it was like my second job after I had broken my leg. My first job was at Sunset Room. I was bussing tables and whatnot, and my aunt was a waitress there. She hooked it up, and then Javi took over, and it was a whole big story. But Denny's was my thing. It was overnights. So that's when college was happening for me, and at some point I was just like, you know what? College is not for me. So I'm not going to work. I'm going to do the overnights, and I did until my mom had that talk. Your mom has a talk. It's like, look, you're old enough. You got to pay rent. You got to do this. You got to do this. If you don't want to go to school, then you're on your own.
Emily, you're one of the few that graduated from college and went to work in the field that you've been in ever since. You are the exception.
So I actually went to college not wanting to do this necessarily. I went to college. I liked it always. I didn't really go in thinking I was going to do this. I went to college thinking I was going to be a lawyer. I was pre-law. I did history, and I was a media studies major. Wanted to do media law, and I still am interested by it. But I worked for a law firm in Charlottesville.
Habeas corpus.
Are we quizzing people now?
I worked for a law firm in Charlottesville, and I was really bad at it. Like, I was really not good at it.
What did they have you do?
It was more of like menial, like, organization, taking phone calls, and these are phone calls that are like really important. It's like people calling from prison, and I like was not good at transferring the phone calls, and then they would get hung up. And
so of course your skills translate perfectly to a radio station where you transfer calls on a regular basis.
I am much better at it now, but no one trained me. Anyway, worked for a law firm, hated it. And then went back, and I had advice from someone who said, go back to what you wanted to do when you were 10 years old. And in my 10-year-old, like, 5th grade yearbook, I said I wanted to be an ESPN sports commentator.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
You're on your
Is
way.
that yearbook still around?
It's at home in
I would
Virginia.
love to see a photograph of that. That would be a cool
It's
thing.
also me in a Steelers jersey
Right.
in my elementary school. So yeah,
That's cool. All right.
So to M's point, like I wanted to be a camera guy from early on, and my mom pushed me like, "Yo, you just go to school, do the camera stuff." Radio. It was our teacher, Tammy Trujillo, who did KFWB,
Oh, yeah,
she
I know
did news and
Tammy.
whatever. She planted that little radio seed in my head, and I was like, you know what, I can do radio and I can do TV. Great, let's do this. And from that point forward, it just became a thing for me.
What did you want to do when you were 10? Because mine, I got close, but not super close.
I don't know. I don't think I had career aspirations when I was 10.
By the way, this is not unique
I
to
did not
me.
dream of work.
I did not. Yeah.
I wanted to pitch for the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, sure, yeah.
But I mean, like, and I specifically wanted to pitch, specifically wanted to play for the Dodgers. And while I did neither of those things, but I got
close.
to pitch
Yeah.
longer than most people
Right.
do, and I at least get to attend Major League Baseball games in an official capacity.
So that's where when we talked before about memories versus money, that's where so much of this comes back to me because, you know, for whatever I thought I was going to be able to do in this business or in my life, being able to attend things that I knew about and I was interested in, even if just once, was fantastic. You know what I mean? That was good enough for me. I remember sort of putting a bun on all this is that I was never really super motivated until I figured out a couple things that I was good at. But I remember 9th grade career day, and I went to a reasonably well-known school in terms of like I lived in one place, but I went to school in another kind of thing. And I remember this dude came in, and he was the most buttoned up guy I'd ever seen. And he was very fond of himself. He had some great job. And I remember at homeroom that afternoon, because we did afternoon homeroom in the first year of high school, they were like, well, what did you learn from, career day or whatever? And I was like, you know what I learned? I said, I learned that I will not be wearing a suit every day of my life. I don't care what I do. I can't do that. I was like, that guy walked into a high school full of 14-year-olds wearing a 3-piece suit. I'm like, no way. I would not want to live that life. And so that's what I figured out. And that's why radio was always a great option.
I wanted no job where there was a right or a wrong answer.
Okay.
That, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
once I realized that the dream of being a baseball player or something like that was not going to happen, can I just explain my way to a thing? Because I feel like I'm pretty good at that. I feel like I can be fairly convincing and persuasive when I need to be. And, here we are. Here we are
again on our own.
While he's doing it all wrong and why you should listen to me. That's how it goes. All right. We're going to get into winning time. Episode 2, they got me back, Yates.
Nice.
I'm all in. All in. That's
Nice.
next. It's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN.
So Al and I are teaming up for
I'm
your
dancing
chance to
and I'm
win an
dancing and I'm
entire
dancing
office full of
and I'm
merch from
dancing.
You look like a leprechaun.
Okay, so it's called The Stumble. I had to name the dance too. That dance is called The Stumble.
Okay.
Now, are you capable?
Oh, what do you want to see? All right, hold on. On the spot, I can
Look at
give
these boom
you
boom tacos.
the lawnmower,
WabaGrill.com. You can order online. Just go
the
on
dice,
in, get yourself some of these tacos.
the
Visit your local
sprinkler.
Waba Grill location. Of course, walk right in.
Yeah,
Push
no,
the
you're
order
right.
online for delivery
You're
or
good.
pickup.
Yeah.
The lawnmower was good.
Right?
Yeah, the lawnmower is really good. The lawnmower is really good.
The best part about all that,
Yeah.
we just went on YouTube.
Love it.
Oh, good. Good.
definitely had 2 cheeseburgers in one day.
In 5 minutes.
I was going to say, in a span of a segment, you had 2 cheeseburgers.
It was not my finest hour, only it was pretty darn good.
I mean,
It went down in a hurry.
Oof, man.
That's I think coming back from a Dodger playoff game last year, I was in a very similar situation. I hadn't eaten in a long time. Pull off the same exit,
right?
Same thing. I pulled into the line to get food, and a PSA came on this radio station. I was listening to our station, and it was about diabetes. I'm like,
pre-diabetic.
Time to get out of line.
Yeah, gotta go.
And it worked. I drove home. Didn't work as well on Saturday night. We'll talk about what the Rams actually did. A little Stetson Bennett was you know what he did? This is the goal in preseason if you are what's the word in football? Baseball would be a prospect. I don't know if it's a football draft pick, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
Made me go, in a good way, and that's what Bennett did. But let's talk about winning time.
Was there heavy petting?
Please, I just went into.
We just cleared our mind of this. Yeah.
I literally just went and stuck my head in there. I'm like, dude, I can't believe you said that. He's like, I thought it was funny. I'm like, well, kind of, but it was also much grosser than it was funny.
Was there heavy petting?
Very middle school chaperone telling people what they are not allowed to do with the dance kind of vibes.
None of that.
Right.
But
amorous,
heavy petting. What a weird thing to say,
dude. It's like something your grandmother would say.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what was so strange about it. I was like, what?
Greg, no heavy petting.
Something you expect somebody named Estelle to say, or
Dot.
Was there heavy petting?
Dot. Doris.
The enunciation on that too. Like,
what did he want me to say to that too?
He was really.
Yes?
I mean, he was really sticking the landing on that.
It's my friend. I'm not looking at that.
Heavy petting.
You guys are the right. I can't even tell you. When was the last time you went out with somebody who you didn't like, not like your longtime partner or girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, wife, husband, but somebody who you were still getting to know and ended up at a place where other people you know are there and can observe you? That's always a super awkward dynamic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The last time that happened, I was kind of seeing this girl, and I went to a bar that I go to somewhat regularly. And so, they knew who I was, and, these were my friends, these guys who work security or whatever, but, she didn't know them. And so I was like, yeah, some of these guys are my boys, blah, blah, blah. She proceeded to get so hammered that, I had to carry this person back to my place, which I did not even sleep in the bed with this person. I was like,
was there heavy petting?
Exactly. I was like, absolutely not. Woke up on the couch, and when they woke up, I was like, you got to go.
That would be awkward, right, Em? Where if you went out on a date with somebody and Jorge and I were having lunch in the same spot.
That would be weird, yes.
It would be super weird, yes?
Yeah, I think I've had this happen to me at, dinner one time. So, I went to, it was back when I lived in Connecticut, and I was on a date with someone, and, then we were having the date, and then my friends were at the same bar, just happened to be at the same bar. They kept on looking over at me. It was awkward. I've also had some times where I've gone on a date, and then my ex is there too, and that's also always weird. Has gotten into situations. It's always awkward.
Being the person that's observing, though, is kind of fun.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can ratchet up the awkwardness as much or as little as you want.
I mean, and just in
Go
general,
send them
that's
some cookies or something.
Yeah, that's peak.
Pull up a chair at the table.
Real life TV show happening in front of your face kind of thing. It's great. I would love to run into one of my friends on a date. That would be fantastic.
Mind if I join you?
Yeah, that bit.
Where else are you guys going? Is it going well?
Was there heavy petting?
Mr. Tony sends over a bottle kind of situation.
It is the Waba Grill Lunch Hour on 710 ESPN. Thanks to our friends at Waba Grill. You've got to try Waba Grill's new Asian-inspired Boom Boom Taco Trios with your choice of chicken, ribeye steak, or shrimp. Visit your local Waba Grill location or order online for pickup and delivery at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill. Eat smart. Be healthy.
I'm laughing because Mailman Matt just tweeted us and said, on the highest of top floor elevator stops, I've had the same pizza place deliver not once, not twice, but thrice in a single day. That's funny.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a move. But anyway.
And expensive.
Yeah.
At some point, we need a little variety. Yeah. I understand we're on the top floor.
Get different types of pizza.
Maybe, you get pepperoni
on
one, a veggie
get
on
wings.
the next, get some wings, yeah.
You mentioned, though, winning time. And you said you're back. Mm-hmm. And this is interesting because I felt the first episode started off with enough of a bang that I was back anyway. You didn't like the first episode.
I didn't.
I thought this episode was far slower and you covered far less ground, which is understandable. It's a one episode in a larger thing. It's not a premiere, which is also basically 2 episodes. What did you like about last night's show?
It was story-driven. It was about the relationship between Magic Johnson and his teammates. It was about the way that Magic and Norm Nixon and the coaching staff all were kind of manipulating one another to their own benefit. I like the interpersonal dynamics of that team. There was only one, as I was going to ask you during the break.
I was going to say the knee talked.
There was only...
Spoke from the crash can.
What was just one, right? Where Chick turned to the camera and said, now we got to blank and score?
I mean, the whole opening intro was guys doing direct address with the yellow background, like talking about what their place was in the thing. Like there was a good 45 seconds of that with each character like doing 10 seconds at a time.
It wasn't breaking the fourth wall.
It didn't break the fourth wall necessarily
like
in scene, but like, yeah, it was there.
Yeah, that I don't love the fourth wall stuff, and there was very little of it there. I loved the scene on the airplane. I don't want to spoil it because I thought that was kind of a good way to end that, and you can see the train coming down the tracks.
Absolutely.
There's a lot in there that's setting up the stuff that's going to be the payoff.
Was that one interaction between a player and the reporter real? Did that happen?
I bet that the kernel of it is real.
Yeah.
There's probably a quote that was said that was on the record that accelerated what we all know happens, which is ultimately Norm Nixon getting traded to the Clippers.
Right. Well, what's interesting about that, too, is that I felt like they're doing a good job of portraying how very different the relationship with the media and players was then. Meaning he runs into him in the hallway by himself and sort of awkwardly says, oh, that's on record. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? That would never happen today. No. Not in that way, not at all. And also the idea of, hello, journalists who have enough clout to ruin people flying on team planes with them. You know what I'm saying? Like those days are totally over in terms of how that actually goes down. Now, don't get me wrong. Teams have in-house journalists these days who do great jobs. It's just a different nature of the
dynamic.
It's a different dynamic of the business, but I think they do a good job of portraying that on this show.
How did you like the Chick stuff? There's a lot more Chick this episode. Than
the guy that plays Chick, I should know his name. I don't off the top of my head. The actor that plays Chick, I think, does a really good job. I have a feeling that the Chick character is embellished the way that the Jerry West character is embellished, probably turned up to a degree that is
Spencer Garrett.
Yeah, I like the character. I find when he's on screen, I'm watching. I find him to be very watchable. I think the part of this portion of the story arc that I really like that. And again, I'm old enough to have remembered Winning Time or Showtime and what it was.
Yeah.
But what I had forgotten, because we've had basically 40 years on top of it at this point, there was a moment in time where Magic was not the most popular person in the room.
Yeah.
There was a moment in time where Magic was looked at as maybe a little bit of a phony, a little bit duplicitous, that his teammates are kind of looking at him like, really, dude, that him and Kareem kind of knocked heads a long way. And the development of Magic from young, impulsive, maybe not the greatest this, that, or the next thing, brash, to Magic Johnson. I love that story that we're getting told.
Well, this is why I thought that this season was going to be better right out of the gate, because you realize, this is the juicier cut of the steak when it comes to what we're doing overall with this product that is the Lakers Showtime in general. And I'm loving it. I thought this episode was a little slow, but that's only because I felt like the first one got out to such a bang. But yeah,
I want more Celtic stuff.
This
left off the last episode with the Celtic stuff.
And also, like, I wouldn't mind something that isn't also only rooted in the notion of the Lakers side of things. Like, if this gets into a world in which, like, let's just say there's a whole episode that has no Lakers in it, you know what I'm saying? I would not hate that.
Can you do that in Winning Time?
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, I would watch an episode of the Celtics. You know what I mean? Like, or what have you?
Just purely for story purposes?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A Larry Bird episode.
Yeah, a Bird, or just something that shows you something about the Lakers from a perspective of people that are not them. You know what I mean? Because I think that would be very... Listen, I realize that this isn't designed to be a documentary, but it would be quite informative because, again, there were other people that saw this and watched this and were a part of it that were not just humans in Los Angeles. It'll be interesting to see how far they go with that in order to sort of make a difference with the other characters, because you can't just pop Larry Bird in and out. That doesn't make sense.
Also, was that result in that one game, is that dramatic effect that 15 seconds
so
left
I
on the
looked
clock?
this up. They lost that game by 3 points, and it was back when the first round of the NBA playoffs was 3 games.
Best of 3.
Yeah, and that then evolved to 5. Now it's 7, but they lost that game by what was a bucket, and I don't know what happened at the end of the game, but that one was one where I looked it up.
That felt very dramatic effecty though. Of course, there's only 15 seconds left. have to get
I
it.
knew they
the ball
lost
to
the
Magic.
series. I didn't know if they lost it on Magic shooting an air ball.
I went
towards
back
the
and
buzzer.
looked it up, and that was back when I realized this was long enough ago. Kansas City still had
Kansas
a
City
team
Kings.
in the league.
Yeah,
yes.
before they went to Sacramento.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this was pre-Sacktown.
It's got to be a different ride, too, for somebody who has not lived through it and not watched it, because we know that the Lakers win 5 titles in the 1980s.
Sure.
Right? That's kind of common knowledge, but the order in which they fall may not be, like John would know them off the top of my head. I think I could get most of them.
No.
You don't. Like, is this the one that they win? Is this the one they lose? They beat the Celtics here. Do they lose the Celtics here? But where we are in the story right now is we're just about to get James Worthy. We're just about to get Byron Scott. The show, you're right. The Showtime, as I remember it. Now, they won a title in 1980 with Magic and those guys.
Yeah.
But the Showtime Lakers, Pat Riley, Byron Scott, James Worthy, and, of course, Kareem and Magic, we're just about getting that group of players, and that, to me, is the sweet spot.
Well, Showtime, they've alluded to it nicely. They said, you got to find a better name for this system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they haven't actually done it. But
Your name of the system is the system?
that was one of the funniest lines ever.
And Siegel goes, thank you, Jim. Like, the way that was delivered was really, really well done.
That was good. But the thing about it was, and the reason why I was thinking so much about the Celtics is because when I looked up that season, the Celtics won that year. You know what I mean? And they beat the Rockets in the finals. So the Lakers lost to the
Wouldn't
eventual.
that be interesting to see, too? It's especially
Yes.
not just that they lost and you see that the Lakers lose, but that their arch nemesis wins.
Yeah,
You know, or was they not arch nemesis at that point?
I want to say in the 1980s, starting in 80 through 89, the Lakers or the Celtics won 8 of those 10 titles.
Yeah.
And Philly had 1, and maybe the Lakers and Celtics got 9 of those. 5 and 3. Rockets had, not the Rockets. Philly had 1. There's another random one in there. Maybe it's
Sure.
the Pistons at the end.
It might have been. Yeah, that would have been it. Yeah.
So the Pistons got 1 at the end. It was one or the other virtually every year. Right. And the team that beat you was also in the finals, right? So Philly beat the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
The Pistons beat the Lakers. Or no, they beat the who did they beat?
No, the Pistons beat Portland. Yeah.
It just one of those two teams was in it every single year. I'm all in. That first episode, you and I, it's funny.
It's weird. Whatever. We've gotten to the same place.
Yeah,
you know what I
we're
mean?
in the
Which
same
is
spot.
we're looking forward to.
And I also kind of like how you see how the character of Paul Westhead and like the person of Paul Westhead could get like the egos get in the way of success. Who knows what would have happened if the trade happened, if they did that at that time. I liked kind of seeing that perspective of
David
inside
Thompson had he become a Laker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What
That's cool to
happens
me.
it there?
Right.
Look, the universe happens for a reason.
It's not a simulation. Exactly.
For one reason or another, we get to where we're supposed to go. Rams played their first preseason game of the year. Some good, some not so good. Next, it's Trav and Slee. Yates is in for Slee on 710 ESPN.
Anyone who has ever needed
So Al and I are teaming up for your chance to win an entire office full of lunch from Waba Grill. So you're going to want to be listening all day during the 12 o'clock lunch hour for your cue to call to pick up food for the entire office, courtesy of Waba Grill.
We got some ribeye, we got some chicken, we got some shrimp.
I'm making it sound like I cooked them myself. Look at these boom boom tacos.
You can visit wabagrill.com. You can order online. Just go on in, get yourself some of these tacos. Visit your local Waba Grill location. Of course, walk right in. Of course, you can order online for delivery or pickup. Waba Grill, right? Eat smart, be healthy. Boom, boom, kaboom.
KOA presents Today Was a Good Day, featuring Ice Cube, Ashanti, and Ja Rule. See them and more live on Friday.
It's official. It's the Pistons in 1989. So we got there. I knew that there was a second one in there somewhere.
That was the one I knew.
Yeah,
that was my sort of earliest recollection of not just watching basketball, but like knowing who the players were.
The other one was Philly, the Dr. J dunking it on Michael Cooper's head. As
The
he
Rocker Baby.
Yeah.
Rocker Baby, one of the best in-game dunks in the history of
He kind
NBA
of gets,
basketball.
I don't want to say lost, but of the great players of the 70s and 80s, because it was Magic and Bird and Jordan, and then the league just exploded after that. Like, Bird was just a little bit early for that thing, and even when he was still really good, Magic and Bird were winning everything.
You talking about Dr. J?
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of a regional element there. Like, Dr. J, like, is my dad's favorite player of all time, not close. And most of his friends are kind of the same way. If you were on the East Coast, Dr. J is a dude because of his time in the ABA and obviously where he was from.
By the way.
I mean, yeah, the doctor is the doctor.
Dr. J.
He was in the first season of Winning Time, too.
He was, yeah. He was a pretty good role, too.
Yeah. No, Dr. J. Plus, he had the look, he had the mustache. Like, there was
he
everything
kissed
about
JaVale
that guy.
McGee's mom on the mouth in front of her face during a dunk contest, for God's sakes. Like, that was an incredible move of all people.
Dr. J, man. All right, so you did not make it to SoFi
I did
on
not.
Saturday night.
No, wasn't feeling up to it. Had a bunch of other stuff going on that weekend. But they did play, allegedly, not on my television. But how did your boy Stetson look? I know you were concerned
They did
about
play.
his composure and makeup.
I can testify that
Okay.
they did, in fact, play. If you were a DirecTV customer like myself, you're able to see it no problem.
Excellent.
And I heard JB's call, so the game was played for sure. Stetson Bennett might be good.
Okay.
And I think that's the best thing you can say about a rookie player, especially a rookie quarterback, after 3 quarters of football that's played at about 60% of what an actual NFL game is
He's got the kind of energy of a player that I don't necessarily know that I know that well, but I can name him. Matt Moore. Like, he'll be around the league for a while, like good enough to be a backup. If you need somebody to start in a situation, maybe he can do it, but like is not ever really going to be competing for a starting job. And I'm really only naming Matt Moore because that's the first guy that came to mind.
He wasn't scared, though. That's
what I'm saying. And that's the energy I've always gotten out of Stetson Bennett. Yeah, I'll be in the league. You know what I'm saying? Check me out.
There were 2 things I really liked about it, one of which is what you're talking about. There was this, I belong here, and I might be inexperienced, but it's not, I'm going to figure this out, right? That I will be okay in this. That, look, I'll go back to the last time the Rams threw a rookie quarterback in that situation. When Jared Goff first started playing, the vibe in the Coliseum, the vibe was, what the hell is going on out there? It was a, oh my gosh, did they pick a guy that can't play at all? It was a tire fire.
He was lost in the sauce.
It was terrible, and it was a uh-oh. And then when you finally got him in about halfway through that season, they put him out there, you're like, this dude can't play. He was confused, and the thing he did, which brings me to the second thing that I really like about Stetson Bennett, when Jared Goff in that rookie season kept making the same mistake over and over and over and over again. Stetson Bennett nearly threw 2 interceptions on his first 3 passes.
Oh, wow.
Okay, they were bad decisions. They were bad throws. Didn't look good. But shortly after that, it got a lot better really quickly. They had a delay of game penalty down towards the goal line. They were first to go from like the 6 or whatever it is. They got a delay. That's on the coach and the quarterback. Those are the 2 people that penalty is on. Not at all surprising considering that he's a young guy.
Certainly.
So now they're backed up. They're outside of the 10-yard line. He immediately hits Puka Nacua with the touchdown pass.
Oh.
So these moments of, hey, dude, it took a couple of bad sacks. You're like, can't do that. But the plays after the bad plays were almost always better plays.
That's good.
That is a really good indicator of somebody that's learning pretty quickly. I love the I belong here attitude. I don't know if he's big enough and strong enough to survive if he takes a couple of shots, but I want to see more. And I think that's what you're looking for in a situation like Steve Avila, comes in and looks like an NFL player from the first snap. You're like, oh, and you know who else thought so? Sean McVay. Because after quarter, like, get him off the field.
Right. Gotta go.
Put him over there. We're not going to do that anymore. But Bennett was, show me more.
Okay.
You looked at Brett Rippon, who started the game for the Rams. It's like, that doesn't look great.
Wow.
Stetson Bennett looked like a guy that you want to see more. Not anointing him as the next Dan Marino, but it was, show me more right
And
there.
this is why I brought up the SEC element.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that typically you get out of guys that have played a fair amount in conferences where the competition and the space is that big. You know what I mean? You're not there are no small-time games when you're at an SEC school, So these moments don't get outside of you in terms of what you're able to do and get back to who you've been. So that doesn't surprise me, but I'm glad to hear it.
Do you think he's going to play majority of the rest of the preseason? Because I think that they'll give him a lot of playing time because this is going to be all the playing time he has all year.
Well,
and it's only going to be better if you see
I think
him out.
you're asking exactly the right question. It's exactly the right, because here's the rub. If he's really going to be your second-string quarterback, you probably don't play him, right? Because
of Stafford's age in terms of what he's dealing with?
You don't have to squint too hard.
To work out stuff.
It's that yin and yang,
this is
right?
This is what you get paid to coach for.
It is a tough decision because you don't have to squint to find the path where Matthew Stafford misses some games. I mean, you just saw it last year, right? You got an offensive line that still has a bunch of question marks. Your backup quarterback will likely play at some point. What's more important? To get him quasi-NFL reps, which they're not scheming. They're not. The coverages are very base.
You're not
and very
playing
vanilla.
against air, but you're playing against
But you're playing against NFL caliber
speed.
You are
players in terms of size and in terms of ability in some way.
Sort of. You're playing against a lot of other 2s and 3s. You're playing a base vanilla. It's not. That's why I said this is like 60% of an NFL game. You can get hit. You can get killed. Like you can get smoked. That's real. But you balance that, and I think we're going to have a really good idea of whether or not he is cemented as that number 2 guy or not based on how much he plays.
Well, let me ask you this question now that we're getting after it. Then, okay, if you pick him, and I'm not necessarily sure that I'm of the belief that picking guys to be your backups is the best way to get a backup in terms of first-year dudes. Do you think that there has been, I'm not going to say negligence, but like if the backup situation is that dicey behind Stafford, is there a situation where you might need another person? Like you might actually need a guy, or are the expectations on this season so low that that's not really of the concern?
I think it's the second thing.
Okay.
I think it's the second thing because, look, it's the preseason. I'm not going to qualify it too much. I think everybody knows the
the performance is not even the issue. The roster construction is what I'm asking about.
That's why I think when you look at what you saw on Saturday night, and they played a bunch of their guys.
Sure.
This was a very non-Sean McVay preseason game. They played a lot of guys that are going to be starting for this team played on Saturday night.
Okay.
They got their work cut out for them. Let's just put they have an uphill climb. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but the level of talent on that team is not where it's been under Sean McVay for most of this time. So, yeah, I think that you make that pick thinking he may play, and I don't know if they drafted him necessarily to be the backup.
Right.
I think they drafted him knowing he can be the backup, and maybe we got a steal in the 4th round with a quarterback who can be a starter in this league.
Okay, because if Stafford is really looked at as that fragile, or at least potentially, it sort of is an indication on where you think your ceiling is if you're going with a rookie as your potential backup. And that's not a knock on anything. It's just, the way teams build themselves that are successful in many times. Because this is my thing about backup quarterbacks, and I say this all the time in general about quarterbacks. I am of the opinion that it is the worst coach position in the league.
Backup quarterback?
No, quarterback in general.
Okay.
And so the way people handle how their quarterbacks are running is a pretty good indication of how good.
What makes you say that?
Over the last 15 years in the NFL, the way that teams have tried to go about making that position the maximum position, I think has been very foolhardy in one regard. There's a lot of people that come in that are considered to be one thing, and when they're not, they're done with. The idea of developing a dude is very rare these days in NFL football for most coaches. Some people do it pretty well. The Chiefs are an example of that with Patrick Mahomes. They had a skill guy who turned into a larger skill guy and game manager guy. But the number of teams that have just picked a guy, rolled him out there, and said, all right, if you can't put it together, then you're not our guy because we need to have a pillar of the franchise is way too high for the relative level of success that's existed in the NFL.
I think there's two things.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. Number one is what you're saying, which is don't ask a guy to do A if he does B, right? They do not ask Lamar Jackson to play like Joe Montana.
Right.
Do not ask Joe Montana to play like Lamar Jackson. Know what you're picking, and then ask him to do the thing that you're picking. I don't think that always happens. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, right?
And guys, just they're assuming that you. How do I say this? The quarterback does not always have to be the best player on your offense. It helps, but the goal is to get there, not to necessarily assume that if he isn't already there, then you've got to get somebody else.
49ers are a good example of what you're talking.
Correct.
Here's the other part. There are maybe 12 guys on earth that are good at this.
Exactly.
That's the other part.
Yeah.
They move on because once you know it doesn't work, try another one.
I guess.
Because there are maybe, if we're being generous, 15 guys that are legitimately good at that job. There are 32 teams in the NFL.
No, you're right.
And so when they move on, I don't think it's so much we didn't use them right. It's I know what this looks like, and he doesn't have it.
Yeah, but I mean, how many guys are you going to go through before you don't know what you're doing at all? And that's where sometimes
Perhaps,
I sort of feel
I kind of look at it a little differently. My whole thing is I would take one every year in the draft. If you have Josh Allen, you probably don't need to do it.
I'm willing to accept that if you're going to do that on the other end. But most teams find themselves in the middle, and I feel like a lot of young guys get blamed for things where I'm just like, dude, this was not a situation in which you had any remote potential for success. Like your team was bad, your offensive line was bad, and your coaches expected you to do everything. Like that never happens.
There are some guys though that the second you see, you're like, I don't love that.
Again,
it happens a lot, and if once you know. Let's move on.
But I totally agree. But that's what I'm saying. The coach's job is to make sure the guys can potentially get better and so we'll see.
Dave Roberts says that this team has something that none of the other teams he's ever had has. That's coming up next. It's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN.
The OG.
has the same person dropped off food at your house twice in one day? I don't
Great
know.
question.
Travis and Sliwa.
On 710 ESPN.
With that in mind, is Trav eating 2 In-N-Out cheeseburgers at 1 a.m., followed by a giant burrito the next day, like the time Shohei pitched a complete game and then hit 2 home runs in the second half of a doubleheader? Hashtag Ask Big CY.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm guessing so. I mean, especially now that he's, later with arm fatigue, he can't play, but he can still hit. That's like you on Sunday.
That was the most Ohtani thing ever. Like, you see the slug on your phone that's, Ohtani's to miss a start with arm fatigue, which, by the way, is not a huge deal. It happens.
No,
a lot of guys miss a turn. It is what it is. It's just they're hanging on by their fingernails, and without him, their fingernails just tore off.
Totally gone. Yeah.
But he turns around that very same night and pops one 440 feet to beat a good Astros team in a game that, they're pretty much dead in the water anyway, but they lose that one. It's all but officially done, and he found a way to win it. And that's why I'm so excited. I want him to be a Dodger. I'm optimistic that he will be a Dodger, but whoever gets him, even if he struggles on the mound, you're still going to have a guy that's going to hit 45 or 50 homers.
Yeah.
Even if he goes quiet with his bat for an extended period of time, you've still got an ace caliber pitcher walking out there every 5th or 6th day.
Very true. It'll be interesting to see also if other teams are willing to manage his time the same way that this team is. You know what I'm saying? In terms of
Wouldn't you make every concession possible?
I think you would, but at the same time, if it turns into a situation where maybe it's the other way around, or says maybe I don't want to pitch as much, you know what I'm saying, or what have you. I do think that the Angels conceded something that it's no longer the same issue because at the time there was no DH. You know what I mean? Now that if you're a National League team, it's kind of a slightly different calculus to see what his interests are at this point.
I got a question for you on that.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let me tell you that it's the Waba Grill lunch hour here on 710 ESPN. Thanks to our friend at Waba Grill. You got to try Waba Grill's new Asian-inspired Boom Boom Taco Trios with your choice of chicken, ribeye steak, or shrimp. Visit your local Waba Grill location or order online for pickup or delivery at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill, eat smart, be healthy. One of the things that with Ohtani, the Angels basically have a almost completely and totally hands-off approach.
Right.
They let him do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And that's with when he pitches, when he doesn't, when he throws on the side, when he doesn't, when his media response. Like, they basically are whatever you want, you go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 or 6 teams that have a legitimate chance of acquiring him this offseason, do they do it exactly the same? Or because, look, maybe a team like the Dodgers, a team like the Atlanta Braves, these teams that have a system that, look, our ish works, man.
Right.
Our program works. It's not only going to work for you, it's going to be even more impactful because of the talent you have. Or do you just say to get him in there and to, look, he's had a ridiculous amount of success regardless. Do you just let him be on the Shohei program and everyone else is on the team program?
This is why I think this idea that he's just walking into Chavez Ravine is not as high on the list as a lot of people do because, number one, it might be that you have to let him do what he wants to do in order to be even in that top 5 or 6 teams. And so who knows? That to me is like all these people who want to pontificate about winning cultures and you say a lot, you've got to be in it to have a chance to win it. That's all great. But if some guy's got to go to what he considers to be a Marine barracks type of operation, he's not doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Which the Dodgers are widely looked at as.
Again, and that's where I'm just sort of like that part to me is he going to be – will your franchise let him be who he wants to be is a much more important question to me in the ability to get him than does it give him a chance to win another or to win an MLB championship. I genuinely believe that.
The Dodgers are a very smart organization, whether it's analytics, whether it's player acquisition, whether it's development, whatever it is. They seem to be ahead of the curve of most teams. I would be shocked if they let their – well, this is the way we do it, get in the way of getting the most unique talent that we've ever seen.
Okay, so you think they're willing to make an exception
I think that,
for Shohei?
That it's one of these, look, you don't have to do it our way if you can do what Shohei does.
Okay.
And maybe if the whole thing starts to regress.
Yeah.
And he instead of being a number 1 level starter, it's like, hey, he's kind of hit and miss. He's looking like just a guy. If he goes from being a 50 home run guy to a 25 home run guy, then maybe you start to say, hey, listen, can we at least talk about your approach? But until it goes bad, I'm not touching that.
I mean, I tend to agree, but, sometimes egos and pride get in the way of these kinds of things, and it can become difficult. You know what I'm saying? If he walks in there and says, hey, I'm doing this, that, and the third, and they go, hey, buddy, we're the Los Angeles Dodgers, we'll negotiate it. And he says, okay, never mind.
I think you can say that to Ahmed Rosario. I think you can say that to Kike Hernandez.
Okay. That's a lot of faith. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's that.
Do you think they'd push back?
I don't know, but that is the question to me. Like, I think this question about potential championships is further away from the top of the priority list than what's it going to be like to play here every day, bro? I'm Shohei Ohtani. What are you providing on that front?
I think you'd have to be
very foolish to not
foolish
give
is the
consent.
perfect word.
Yeah.
It would be so foolish to think that you know how to do what he's been doing his whole life better than he does.
I mean,
let him do it. If it breaks, have the conversation. But
Sure.
until it breaks, I'm with you. I'm gonna let it roll. Dave Roberts said that this is the favorite team he's ever had, about the grit and the grind, and everybody's willing to do whatever they're asked to do, play different positions, assume different roles. He didn't say that on accident. That was not something that he just said in the heat of the moment talking to some reporters. That was with purpose, and I think that the purpose is take some of the pressure off of this team that has been on its shoulders for the better part of a decade.
And it's a very interesting situation to be in for Dave, because Dave's job will never really be in question in terms of
I agree with you.
In terms of certain elements of it.
If his job were in question, he wouldn't be here anymore.
But this is what I'm saying. It's an awkward in-between where if the front office is going to ostensibly say, well, it's win or bust every year, but at the same time, the front office is controlling so many things that happen from a managerial standpoint, allegedly or not. But then it's at the same time, he's not winning that many World Series. It's like, which one of these is true? Because 2 of the 3 of these things are, in fact, contradictory in terms of how your operational method goes.
I'm so happy I'm talking to someone else who gets this. Thank
it's weird.
Goodness that there's someone else that's seeing this the way that, because here's the, he's born, guys, if the front office really thought that he was shooting a hole in the boat every postseason, do you really think he'd still be there? Or the opposite of, guys, I think he's out there to take responsibility for it, even if it's not entirely his responsibility. Does that not make a whole hell of a lot more sense of why he's still here? Because look, they've been maybe not the best team, but one of the best teams for 10 years in a row. They got 1 World Series.
And that's the kind of stuff that goes into play when, people looking to join your team are wondering how your chain of command goes. If the reason he goes, let's just say Shohei likes Dave a lot, let's just say there's a connection culturally because Dave is obviously half Japanese or whatever it may be. If it turns out that he finds out that, in fact, Dave doesn't run the team, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, like it's the conundrum of how the top of the chain of command works for the Dodgers is fascinating to me. It's almost more interesting than anything that happens on the field.
And it's impossible to get a straight answer.
Yeah, that's why it's so fascinating, because it's like, oh, okay, like, all right, I guess this is acceptable, but at the same time, your standards are indicated as something else. Very difficult to understand.
It's my favorite topic with this team because I've talked to a lot of different people, some people who are guessing and some people who I believe know what they're talking about. And it's somewhere between all of these are collaborative decisions to, no, dude's just doing what he's been asked to do.
Yeah.
I tend to think it's more towards the second one than the first one, but there's no other explanation that it's not at least a collaboration or he wouldn't be here anymore.
Right. And that's the thing. And so all of these things come into play when I'm talking about free agents in general, not just in terms of superstars, because I feel that, there's certain teams that work better certain ways and some guys can flow into that system and some guys don't like that. It's just different.
So I said this at the end of last season when they got beat by the Padres in 4 games. Super fun season. Okay. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. We just went the most ever Dodger history, win 111 games, and poof, it's over before we really even got started. And I remember at the time saying, until we get to October, there's really nothing to get super worked up about because this team's going to be measured based on whether they succeed in the postseason or not. I still feel that that's mostly true because the Dodgers could win the division again. If they go in and lose to the San Francisco Giants or the Marlins or the Cubs or whoever they run into, and if they lose to the Braves, ultimately, I think Dodger fans can deal with it.
Perhaps.
But anything short of that, I think we're right back where we started. The expectations feel better because maybe they didn't think you were going to run away with the division, but the fact of the matter is they did. They are.
They are.
And it's going to be a miracle if somebody catches them at this point. And we're kind of right back to where it ended again. Like, all right, we went through the preliminaries. Now it's time to show me the part that actually matters.
Very interesting existential situation for what the Dodgers and Dodgers fans are dealing with right now, for sure. For sure. Would not want to be in that position, to be quite honest, as far as decision-making. And in general, like, I do wonder what it's going to take for a guy like Davis to be looked at as on the hot seat.
What happened?
I mean,
because they don't strike me. Do they?
If it didn't happen last year,
right?
Right. You know, when is it going to happen?
And it hasn't happened in other years where there was stuff like, what the hell is going on down there? And it hasn't happened.
Right.
And they've never struck me either as a team that does the, you know what, we just got to change it. Which, by the way, I don't. Sometimes you do.
I don't hate. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just Pat Riley, I think, said it after he'd won all the titles with the Lakers. He said, you know, even after about 10 years, it's just time to move on.
Right.
That the message gets stale. And he was there. He went to the Knicks, did what he did with the Knicks. He went to the Heat. Then he moved them in the front office. That at some point, the same message from the same guys. Pete Carroll has talked about this
Very
before.
true.
You got to change the message or the messenger. They get clipped again. Who knows?
We'll see. I mean, this is a critical postseason for the upcoming Dodgers offseason in more ways than one. Also, if you fire your manager, are you going to get a guy who's that big of a deal with a new manager? You know what I mean? Like, there's
let him manage.
I mean, yeah,
why not? He'll pitch opening day. He'll hit a couple of home runs, and he'll walk out to make pitching changes the other 4 days of the week.
Right?
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's
what else is he?
It's really something. This guy,
sell the beers, park
Anthony
the cars.
Rincon, he says he's brought this up as well before. What if Atlanta only wants his pitching, or the Dodgers don't need his bat? I think that's a little bit unrealistic. But the teams offer him less than what he's valued at.
Then he won't go there
again. But if these are good teams that. You know what I'm saying? Feel one thing or the other. Again.
As an intellectual exercise, that's interesting. But in reality, is there any team in baseball that doesn't want both of the things that he does?
Well, not necessarily. But again, the egos of some of these guys are very, very up there. This is going to be more interesting than people give it credit for.
Well, you are the first guest, or you're in the day that the Dodgers sign him, and I can look at you and go, nah.
That's fine. I mean, it's just a question of whether or not that's going to be what, how that goes.
And if not, I'm taking that day off because I know you're going to come in looking for me. The Dump's coming up next. It's Travis Slee, 710 ESPN. If you get hurt in an accident, call Sweet James. Easy, right? It really is that easy. A friend of mine came to me last week and said, hey, got in a little accident. Can you help me out? Can you put me in touch with Sweet James? Absolutely. Guess what? They're on the road to getting this taken care of. If you are hurt in an accident, call the attorneys at Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. 1-800-900-0000. Because here's what you're looking for. Experience. Somebody that used to work for the insurance companies, knows that inside and out. Somebody who's been doing this for 20 years. That's Sweet James. Get the car fixed. Get the medical care that you require. And, of course, life-changing settlements to the tune of over $1 billion collected in his nearly 20-year career. So if you are hurt in a car, motorcycle, truck accident, a dog bite, make the call that I've made, my family members have made, and my friends have made. Call the accident attorneys at Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. 1-800-900-0000 and sweetjames.com.
You never have to
It's time for everything we haven't got.
All right, here we go. Prime Video is announcing a green light order for Kelce, a documentary that follows Eagles All-Pro center Jason Kelce through the upcoming NFL season. And last season, the doc, which premieres September 12th on Prime Video, is produced by 914 Pictures and NFL Films. Jason Kelce? I know he's colorful. I know he's got some, personality.
Nice
he and
guy.
his brother are good, but we're going to follow a center?
I think that we got to assume that there's a market for this, of people that enjoy this kind of content. That's not a knock, but I've got to assume that there's a lot of people probably who just kind of like watching big dudes live regular lives kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that we're going to find any. This is going to lean far closer to something you would see on, say, I don't know, home and garden television than, say, FX. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people are watching this for any sort of stunt, effect. They just want to see a nice guy live with his family. That's kind of where
But he's kind of a wild card, right? He's colorful. He says some things. He'll mix it up a little bit.
I guess.
But what are we going to learn from that we don't learn if you want to listen to their podcast? I don't know. That's the whole thing for me. It's like, I don't know if this is super necessary. Because again, if you're a Kelce fan, listen to the podcast.
You know who's a good?
Yeah, this is not for me.
You know who's a good subject of a documentary? Quarterbacks and guys like Antonio Brown,
sure.
Guys like Terrell Owens,
sure.
Guys that are
or a quirky coach,
or they're
that's a good call.
I don't know what's coming next, right? When you don't know what that person is going to do, I'm in.
But some people like stable television, where they have a good idea of what they're going to get, and it's just
miss me with that one.
Catching
values.
Kelce?
Yeah.
Here's James Harden in China talking about his relationship with Daryl Morey.
Daryl Morey is a liar. And I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
Okay, so it's a little hard to hear, but he calls him a liar and says, I will never work with him again 2 times in 13 seconds.
He said this at an Adidas Tour event in China, which happened while most of us were sleeping. I happened to be awake because I was watching Winning
I saw the
Time.
tweets go off.
I saw the tweets go
ooh.
off, and I was like, opa, okay. Look, this is... I would like to say that this is a garden variety NBA beef because it kind of is these days, but Harden is taking it to the next. This is standing on your porch to argue when you probably could have this argument in the house. But I do feel that Harden is not familiar with how the game works, man. Like, you didn't have to do anything Daryl Morey asked you to do. You chose to do that. And Morey's the guy that gave you all that money to begin with and took a chance on you. So, there's an element of turnabout is fair play here for me that I think that Harden is just not used to and therefore is acting out.
I am 1,000% stealing that. This is an argument you could have inside instead of on the porch. I love that. That's terrific. I wonder if the pendulum isn't swinging back towards the middle. So forever and ever and ever, it was executives and team owners and coaches decide their roster. Full stop. That's it. Then we've seen player empowerment era go all the way over here where the players are saying, all right, let's all go over here. And, oh, by the way, this place sucks. I want out. And then they're on a new team 5 seconds later. Still kind of like that, but we're seeing it with Damian Lillard. We're seeing it with Daryl Morey where I don't want to be here. And the team's like, okay,
yeah.
fine. But we're not just moving you because you don't want to be here.
Right.
It has to work for me,
too. The days of the Bradley Beal deals are over.
Right. And the days of, with Ben Simmons, for instance, specifically with Daryl Morey, like, I know you don't want to be here, and we probably don't want to have you here either, but I need to get something coming back. And he ultimately turned it into James Harden. Whether that has worked out to the way he wanted to or not, but that guy is obviously not just going to do it because you want him to do it. And I wonder if we're not getting back to that point where it's at least got to work for both of us for us to move you to the next place, because I have a hard time believing James Harden's just going to not show. I do not have a hard time believing that Daryl Morey will say, I'm not moving you until I get what I want.
Yeah, I think it's swinging more than back into just the middle. I think that's a move where if James Harden feels an executive was dishonest with him, but it wasn't exactly below board, that is a cutthroat move. And I don't necessarily know that I have a problem with that. There was always this assumption that because something went into player empowerment that it was therefore going to be better or make more sense for the league. That's not necessarily the case. If Morey feels that, no, this is the way I'm going to run my team, I don't really actually care if I offend somebody.
Right.
I'm just not going to get jerked around. Okay, we've got to accept that as reasonable fair play.
Would you ever take it on faith if your bosses, and I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but just the person who ultimately decides what you make and for how long, said to you, hey, just sign this and we'll fix it later. No. Would you ever accept that?
So the problem with this case is that this is clearly about more than just the money.
Sure.
I think that Harden is offended that he realized that he wasn't the main piece, of the apple of Morey's eye. I think that probably offends him more than the actual money does in this particular case, because that guy's made $1 gazillion. He's got more money than he ever needs, or some people might say deserves, from playing in the NBA. I don't believe that. You get whatever you can get. But I do think that this is an emotional hurt as much as it is a financial one for him.
No doubt.
But to answer your question, no, I would not trust somebody with the bird in hand versus two in the bush.
That's one of those. You know what? Let's just get it done now. Then.
Yeah.
Let's just write it in that I get what I ultimately you tell me I'm going to get.
I'll tell you something that I'll use in general terms. Before I moved to Los Angeles, I had signed my contract. Had not been ratified. I was like, "Yo, what are we waiting for? Let's get this done." Sure enough, it ended up getting done much earlier than it probably would have in the normal part of the process, and I moved to Los Angeles, and then the world fell apart. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Until it's done,
you know what I'm saying?
It's not done.
If it hadn't happened, I might not be sitting here on this microphone today.
Good for it. A lot of good birthdays today. Halle Berry is celebrating a birthday today.
All right. I wonder what Halle Berry does on her birthday.
Goes out? Stays home?
Halle, well, let's just
has
say,
a piece of cake?
Was there heavy petting?
If that's what you want to call it, a piece of cake. You know what I'm saying? Sure, yeah. But, she enjoys her pieces of cake.
Yeah, I'm a fan. You know who else? We talked a lot about him today. Happy birthday to Magic Johnson.
Oh, Irvin.
Right?
Yeah. Love Irvin. New Commanders owner.
Dodger owner, Laker legend, billionaire, business, entrepreneur.
Everything. Multi-hyphenate.
Maybe one of the most famous people in Los Angeles.
Okay, so now that Vin Scully has passed, I think the title is Magic Johnson. And before Scully's death, I think it was neck and neck for the most famous person in town.
And beloved.
And beloved.
Yeah.
No infamy, just straight love and fame. Magic and Scully were neck and neck forever. And now I think Magic's the top of that pile. Am I missing somebody?
I would agree with that.
Julio yesterday.
Snoop.
Julio yesterday.
Hey, got
Snoop's up there.
Interesting.
I feel like Snoop's appeal is a touch more global at this point than just Los Angeles. Local. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, not to say that Snoop couldn't walk around Los Angeles and not be mobbed by individuals everywhere, but
I'm thinking of what they do in Denver with the people mover at the Denver airport, where Michael Malone does the voiceover like, "Hey, you're in Denver airport. Thank you for coming."
That stuck with you, by the way, didn't it?
Yeah, because whatever, it lives in my head rent free. But I was thinking of who would be the voice of the people mover in Los Angeles, and it's like, is it Snoop? Is it Magic? Is it LeBron? Is it whatever? Like, who would that be?
Snoop.
Probably
Snoop is that.
He's also got the best voice.
Yeah, and it's an instant. Like if you heard Magic, you'd be like, "Is that Magic?"
Right.
If you were Snoop, you wouldn't be.
Is
that
Snoop?
Snoop?
Or like
it's like
Leo.
that's Snoop.
Sure. Or like I don't know,
Leo is
Jack Nicklaus,
Messi or DiCaprio. That's me joking.
Jack Nicholson.
Sorry, I get Jack Nicholson.
If Jack Nicholson did it. Interesting.
What was it? Sorry, this is related, but in a side. What was the name of the punter for the Rams, who was also pretty
Johnny
popular?
Hecker?
Yes, Hecker was doing these at a couple different malls in the area years ago, where I'd walk in,
he would do the public address.
He was doing there was.
Did he get a bad roster when he was doing it?
Right? There was I was hearing a lot of Hecker's voice and face in shopping malls in the area, and I was like, why?
Really?
Yes, it was the strangest thing. Can't remember why that was happening.
Well, when they first came back to L.A.,
he was a popular guy.
Keep in mind, that team had Aaron Donald and Todd Gurley on it, and Hecker was the one that was showing up most places.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was in that era when it was like, why am I hearing Hecker's voice all over this mall?
Peyton Manning is going to teach a class at the University of Tennessee. He will be a professor in UT's College of Communication and Information, and I would sign up for that.
They're going to have to hold that class at the basketball arena because that's how many people are going to sign up. Trust me on that one, I would sign up for that too.
He's one of the few super famous people that is omnipresent who I'm always happy to see.
I'll bet that my buddy Ryan McGee is going to get a guest lecture spot.
Oh, there you go.
He's a famous Tennessee grad. I'm going to have to ask him about that.
Because usually,
and I might have to tag along.
When you get to that level of fame and you're on every commercial and you're on every broadcast, it's like, okay, enough, buddy.
Right.
Not with Peyton Manning.
No, he's
it's
not
like,
oversaturated
cool, more
the
Peyton
market.
Manning.
He's not oversaturated the market. The Manning brothers, the Manning cast is very good. It's better than other versions of that they've tried.
Tim Tebow also celebrating a birthday today, and there are other candidates, but you can put Tim Tebow on the very short list of greatest college football careers of all time, greatest college football players of all time. Not talking about his NFL, his baseball little side adventure or any of that.
Don't get me started on that. That made me so mad. That guy was keeping actual players off of rosters. I could. Where is it, Joe?
He swung a bat like a bodybuilder.
I mean, it was the worst swing of all time.
It wasn't great.
It was really bad.
It wasn't great. Come on in, guys. Let's do a little super crosstalk.
ESPN AM 710 Los Angeles. KRDC AM 1110 Pasadena, Los Angeles.
K256CX 99.1 FM Pasadena, Los Angeles.
It's the greatest segment in LA sports radio history.
Oh my God. When the shows come together for magic on the radio.
It will only grow stronger. Super Crosstalk.
Are we ready for Mason and Ireland to join Travis and Slee?
Super Crosstalk begins.
Super Crosstalk presented by In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out. That's what a hamburger is all about.
It's time for Super Crosstalk.
Woo! No Mason, no Ireland, but Andy Kamenetsky, Ramona Shelburne, AK, and Momo in the house. How you guys feeling today? You ready, Andy?
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready, Momo?
Not even removed the shades from the top of the head.
Just all right?
He's still in flight simulator mode.
I just recently got off a flight. I was
Where were you?
I was in Mexico for a week.
How was it?
It was really nice.
I bet.
Really good.
Saying like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Roars.
Hey, were you in Zihuatanejo?
I was not in Zihuatanejo. I did not see a friend carving a boat for us to both get on.
But you were like off the grid.
I was off the grid. I barely checked the internet. I didn't check emails at all.
Really? By design or by practicality?
A little bit of both. I didn't want to, and I went on the excursions during the day where we'd be like either snorkeling or this massive aquatic park called Shell Ha.
Okay. What was the most life-threatening excursion you went on?
Was there heavy petting?
That's Greg's drop from earlier today.
I know. I haven't seen the winning time, so I didn't know what you guys were talking about.
Okay.
But that's all that stood out to me was that
The
line.
heavy petting?
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like that's junior high.
Again,
that was like
that's exactly what I said to him. I said, I feel like you're a middle school chaperone talking
It's
right now.
junior high, but it's something your grandmother tells you
very
when you're in junior
very
high.
judgmental.
It was the next phase over from necking.
Well, that which Crypto Ray brought up in the mentions. Dangerous excursions.
The closest I guess I came from a dangerous excursion in Shell Ha, to make it clear, Shell Ha is not dangerous at all. It's a massive water park that you can snorkel everywhere. I swam with manatees, fed them. It was really
that would
awesome.
qualify as reasonable danger.
Hell yeah!
Interacting manatees? No.
Again, I'm
anything
just saying,
that big
manatees
is
don't have
scaring
teeth.
the.
There is
I get it. But aren't they like
dangerous.
500 pounds?
They're huge.
I mean,
or more.
It's impossible for them to really sit on you in the water.
I don't want to find out.
See, I knew it. That's why I brought it up.
But we were on this lazy river that it's a massive part of the river that eventually leads into the ocean, and my wife dropped her sunglasses. And they fell to the bottom. And when you're in Shell Ha, everybody has to wear life jackets.
Sure.
Everywhere, just because it's too big of an area for them to monitor. But
you mean even when you're just walking around or whatever?
Well, no.
Not when you're eating in a restaurant. They don't make you
the restaurants. They let you take the life jacket off.
Sir, we could please see you over here. It's like when you don't have a sport coat.
I was just
you know
gonna
what I'm saying?
Sometimes you need a tie. Here they give you the life jacket as you walk through the front door.
But my wife lost her sunglasses, and I clocked where they were at the bottom of this one part of the lazy river. I'm like, I think I can get them. I actually think I can get them.
You're going to dive down there.
You went Leo DiCaprio in the beach?
I took off my life jacket.
Whoa!
Rebel.
It would have been impossible to go down with the life jacket. I swam down. I came really close to grabbing them. I actually touched them but could not get a good grip.
Leonard DiCaprio.
And as I started to swim up, I noticed that this big rock was basically curved out and over me.
Oh.
So I had to like swim outward to get to a place where I could swim up and get a breath. Then I started to try it again and immediately chickened out. I was just like,
how deep are we talking?
It's only about 8 or 9 feet.
Okay.
But it was the rock.
Yeah,
right. The rock.
Welcome to the rock. The rock. It was really just that. Like the depth didn't bother me at all. The depth was not.
8 or 9 feet is fine, but a giant rock over your head is
right.
Yeah, I mean,
disconcerting.
The angle, the angle was super intimidating.
Wow.
Momo, you just kind of give me a at the start. You good?
Yeah, I'm just, it's been a week.
Okay.
It's been a week. I've been like trapped in 2020.
It's Monday.
Yeah, no, well, it all blended in. Like the baby got the COVID last week, so I was like home and isolating with the mask and like.
Opa.
And we're all fine. Everybody's fine now. Who's
Okay,
negative
good.
and all that good stuff. But it was like, just home stuck in 2020 with a mask in your house again. I was like, oh, I forgot this.
So Clinton and I were just talking about how we were both watching TV last night. And all of a sudden, phone starts to go crazy with the tweets about James Harden. What is it like in your world when something like that pops off?
This whole morning I've been on the phone. I'm like, it's just. I don't know. There's something to be said for the NBA has set this up to where players really have no recourse but to choose violence at this point. Like this is like James doesn't want to be there, but I find it hard to have as much sympathy for him in this situation. Like this isn't a guy who signed a 4-year extension and then the team changed or something happened. Like he picked up his player option.
Right.
Like this is something you opted into. So whatever you want to say, like whatever happened between you and Daryl Morey, like I think what he's essentially doing is trying to get Daryl Morey fired. Like you already got Doc Rivers fired. Now you're trying to get Daryl Morey fired.
Does he have that kind of juice?
No, not.
I was
going to
say, like, what are they even doing? You led the league in assists last year.
Daryl Morey could eventually get fired.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be because James Harden said him or me. Like the Sixers might eventually say
they did that with Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
But like that's a to me it's. I also think. Like when you do that, when you say somebody is a liar, then you need to now say what did you get lied to about, and that is the really sticky question for everyone involved.
Because it seems to me like Morey was playing the game you play, which is like, all right, you want to
Right, it's like
this is what we're here to do. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's like all those NCAA stories, like for all those years where it was somebody was. They're not getting like the Johnny Manziel doc, which was
Did you watch the Untold one?
I haven't seen it, but I heard Mace talking about it last week.
I watched it last night. It's terrific.
And the whole idea that he was like from this rich family, that was this construction to cover up for how much money he was getting under the table.
Right.
Like all this theater that all the players had to go through to hide the fact that they were getting money for playing football. Like that's what we're doing in the NBA. All this theater, like look. Why is James Harden so upset? Because he turned down money in Houston, he turned down money in Brooklyn, like big long-term extensions, and you don't do that unless you have a pretty good feeling about getting a long-term the same money in Philadelphia.
Was he misled or did he just misread it?
Right. Now, most people would say, okay, do you have proof of this? If you're going to call somebody a liar, you better have proof. So now my question is, are there text messages? Are there voicemails? Or is there just conversations? Like, this is where, how far are you going to take this?
Right. And lying isn't illegal either. Like, you know what I mean?
Also, get it in
Wednesday.
writing. Like that's why the verbal, like my sense is, I don't think anyone with the Sixers would have been stupid enough to put anything in a text message or a voicemail. I think they probably...
Especially now that Jerry Colangelo and Spurner are gone.
Brian Clinton, yeah. But, I don't think anybody would have done it like that, okay?
Right.
To anybody. And I think that probably they use phrases like, you have all these people you're comfortable with. We know your value. We know how good you are. That doesn't mean they're giving you a max.
That's what I said.
And you still got to play. You still got to deliver. This is...
Right, this is how the game works.
Yeah.
The other problem is at this point, let's just say for the sake of argument, James Harden is 100% in the right. They did F him over. He's being truthful and accurate in this depiction.
Okay.
It doesn't matter because by now he's the boy who cried wolf.
A little bit. I think that's fair. When you're on 3 teams in 3 goes, that's tough.
He has created and been a part of so many messes that if even this is the rare mess that really is more other people than him it doesn't matter because when you've been unprofessional this many times, nobody is going to believe you, much less really care.
But I'll bet that's also why, and I said this to Travis before you guys walked in, this clearly seems like an emotional hurt as much as a financial one because I think he thinks he got duped.
I think he feels betrayed.
Right, that's what it is. And if the calculation from Morey was, nobody's going to believe you, buddy. You know what I'm saying? And as how that went into
there was
it,
a calculation.
I don't think right. Like that would be cynical, but it would also not be unfair in my personal opinion.
Take me through this because I don't understand. You have a much greater understanding of this than I do. This idea of, hey, listen, sign this and we'll make it right later. Is that a common occurrence or is this because I don't know. And we're talking about numbers. Like I would never, if you're asking me to come work at a place, we're going to get everything squared away before you start working at that place. Right. Or I'm going to continue to explore other options. I can't, as much as I might trust somebody, like somebody, have a track record with them, when you're talking about things like this, I made
the
more than
same
your
mistake
word.
in my career once. Okay. I was doing a contract and I got these verbal assurances from somebody that, actually I've done this twice. Now that I bring it up.
I was talking about this earlier.
Yeah. One was very early in my career. It was like somebody who called me and they thought they called me for help with like an assignment somebody else had dropped the ball on. Mm-hmm. And they said, I heard you do some really good work for us. And, we have a really quick turn here. And are you able to help us out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I didn't worry about getting paid because they had always paid me. Right? Like I never settled with how much are you going to pay me for this? Like I just assumed that it was going to be similar to what we had always done.
Right, sure.
And then I turned in all this work. My work appeared in print. And when it came time for like the invoice, I was like, well, who do I invoice about this? And the person just totally ghosted me.
Wow.
And it was because they had I had never worked specifically for that editor. And then that editor assumed I had some kind of deal with somebody else.
Whomever, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know what. I never got the story from that other. But it was at a time in my career where I was I was living at home with my parents.
Sure.
I had no money.
But let's say somebody
that
comes to
$200 was a really big deal to me, and
Sure.
I stayed up all night, fixing somebody else's mistake. And I was like, okay, lesson learned.
But somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to turn your podcast into a TV show. We'll give you this. Why don't you get started? You're like, hold on a second. Why don't we get some of this stuff down?
Put this on paper.
Right. Yeah. That feels more like where Harden is.
I would agree.
This wasn't a inexperienced young person getting started, needed the job. This is, I have some skin in this game too.
Also,
and I'm
he's
gonna
had
need something from you.
decades-long relationship with all of these people.
Right.
So it's if you say something to the player in the gym, they got James to a place last year where he took quote unquote $15 million less, and it was framed as him taking less so that they can go and improve the team
get
PJ and Daniel House and whatever. Okay, that is the nicest possible framing that is of what that was. I think the truth was probably they were never going to offer him more than that, and that was just he didn't have a good year when he got there.
Put a good face on it.
Yeah, put a good face on it. We'll save you some face. People, this is how you put a good spin on it, good face. And I don't know if they just sold it to him like that, as you're being a good soldier and you're all about winning and blah 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 blah. But the truth was he didn't play well enough to earn that. And if you look at other players in comparable times in their career, most guys who are his age do not get a max deal.
Right.
Most Al Horford is probably a good comp. The Al Horford goes back to Boston where he's had the most success, and he signs a 3-year, $109 million extension. That's about what James should have got this year. And I think the Sixers were probably going to be somewhere in that range if they had even gotten to the point where they could offer him. But he was wanting assurances beforehand. They were not answering his calls because that's tampering. And they had just gotten hit with the largest fine in tampering history, tampering fine in history, and he was feeling ghosted and betrayed. Yo, I did this for you guys last year, and now you're not even going to make it right with me this year, or engage, or call me back, or let me know everything's going to be okay. So he picks up his player option. That was he just gave away all his leverage by doing that.
Let me ask you.
Should have waited it out.
Yeah.
Should have waited to see what the Sixers. If he waits it out, now he's a free agent. Now you can get some other teams involved. Now you can have the leverage of you're going to lose me for nothing.
Yeah.
That was the strategic mistake that James made.
He just recently, I'm correct about this, started having an agent, right?
Okay. So let's go back in history. His agent was Rob Pelinka for a while.
Yeah.
And then Rob Pelinka got the Lakers job. Yeah. He sort of hasn't had an agent since then. Most players who don't have an agent go to the Players Association. Wait, I'll fill in some more for you. They go to the Players Association, who, by the way, you pay union dues. They're, it's like us calling a union rep here for, hey, what do I do about this?
Right.
So he calls the Players Union, and they advised him on certain contracts, et cetera. He had a manager at the time. His name was Lorenzo. I forget what his last name was, but he had a manager. And then when he did the trade from Houston to Brooklyn, he actually hired the agents at Wasserman.
Right.
To represent him through that trade process. And I think he paid them a fee to get him traded, essentially. And they handled all the negotiations. They handled all of that. And I think, for them, there was a fee involved, but there was also this idea of, like, if we do a good job for this guy, he'll hire us to do his extension because he's due for a giant extension. This lands us back in Brooklyn, where Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden were all together, seemingly happy. And the plan was for them all to sign identical extensions to keep that big three together on the same timeline for the next 3 to 5 years. And all of them were presented with the same extension, and only Kevin Durant signed it.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
And Kyrie's was
that a good recap?
Well,
no,
it's great.
Yeah.
The reason I ask
That's
about
perfect.
The reason I ask about this is because you mentioned earlier the decisions he's made in terms of contracts he didn't opt into, whatever. Yeah. That were widely seen as a mistake.
Yeah.
That maybe he would have been better advised if he had an agent that somebody of his caliber could have gotten. But the other reason that I think this can be important is the agent is often the buffer to keep this stuff from getting.
You mean from calling someone a liar on
stage in China?
That was not that was definitely a calculated move. That was not an emotional move.
But I'm talking about.
It doesn't get to that point.
No, just during the negotiations, the agent is often there to be the buffer. So it doesn't become as directly personal.
I do think there's something to be said for the, I don't want to say lack of leadership, but for whatever his camp is doing and what is happening now, it doesn't seem like that. Whatever it is, positive or negative, it does not seem to have been effective. And that's something that I think is kind of obvious at this point.
The agent, I think, often filters.
Yeah, he has an agent now. He has agents now.
It's just, I don't know. I just also feel like for all of the things that James Harden has done in his career, for all of the sort of bad looks that people have accused him of presenting, this still felt a little bit untoward. Like, it was just kind of like, really? This is what we've come to, James? This is a bit beneath you.
Especially the two players involved.
I'm just like, really? I didn't think that James Harden would still be settling beefs in public like this at this stage of his career. And I don't want to say I feel bad for him, but like, I thought that something... I thought there was going to be a more becoming end to this, if you will, in terms of how he was going to leave Philly.
And it just
hasn't even been close.
Not that.
Like, I wanted to believe that, and I was
more
wrong.
becoming than I thought it would have.
Okay, that's fair enough. Guys mature, guys grow a little, but this didn't happen.
And I think we're just at the beginning.
He's been like,
that's what I mean.
This was a big line in the sand, and I think Daryl has already shown that he's willing to endure a lot of uncomfortableness.
He did it with Ben Simmons.
Yeah,
he did.
I don't think Ben ever said that though.
No. This is a new one. Super Crosstalk is brought to you by In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out. That's what a hamburger is all about. Slee's back tomorrow. We'll see you then.